She told me over breakfast, not during some tearful confession or heated argument, not in the bedroom or after a few drinks when inhibitions drop and truth spills out. No. Laura told me while spreading almond butter on whole grain toast, her laptop open beside her plate, already dressed in her charcoal suit and cream blouse that cost more than my monthly car payment. I'm spending the weekend at the country house, she said, not looking up from her screen, with Evan. I paused mid-sip of coffee. The mug was warm in my hands, ceramic solid and real, while everything else suddenly felt like it was tilting sideways. Evan Hale? I asked, keeping my voice level. Obviously. She finally glanced at me, one eyebrow raised in that way she'd perfected over 15 years of marriage, the look that said I was being slow to catch up. We've got the Sanderson merger presentation Monday. The partners want us locked in for the weekend to rehearse every scenario. At a country house. The firm owns it, up near Woodbridge. It's quiet, no distractions. She took a bite of toast, chewed, swallowed. Evan's already there, setting up the war room. War room. That's what they called it when they wanted to make corporate strategy sound like something important, something noble. I'd heard that phrase 100 times in the last 3 years, ever since Laura made managing partner at Thornton and Associates, ever since Evan Hale became her co-lead on the biggest accounts. Just the two of you? I asked. Daniel. She set down her toast with deliberate care. We're professionals. This is a $70 million deal. If we don't nail this presentation, Thornton loses the account and probably 3 junior positions with it. So yes, just the two of us. Because we're the only ones who can pull this off. She said it like I was being unreasonable, like I was some jealous husband who didn't understand how the business world worked. And maybe that's what she needed to believe, that I was simple, trusting, safely oblivious. I smiled. Of course, I get it. The relief on her face was subtle, but there. A slight relaxation around her eyes, the hint of a smile touching her lips. Thank you for understanding. I know it's short notice. When are you leaving? This afternoon, around 2. She stood, smoothing her skirt. I'll be back Sunday evening. Monday at the latest if we need the extra time. I watched her gather her things. Laptop, leather portfolio, phone that never left her hand. She moved through our kitchen like she was already gone, like I was already just part of the furniture. The coffee maker, the refrigerator, the husband. Good luck with the presentation, I said. She paused at the doorway, looked back at me. For just a second, something flickered across her face. Guilt? Anticipation? I couldn't tell anymore. We'd become strangers who shared a mortgage and a last name, 2 people who'd forgotten how to actually see each other. Thanks, she said softly. Then she was gone, heels clicking down the hallway, the front door closing with a quiet, final sound. I sat there in the silence of our kitchen, coffee going cold in my hands. I'd known for 3 months, not suspected, not wondered, known. 3 months ago, I'd seen a text notification flash on her phone while she was in the shower. Just a preview, nothing incriminating by itself, but the timing was wrong. It was 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. The message was from Evan. Still thinking about today. That's all it said. But Laura had been home all day. She'd worked from home that entire week because of a cold. So what was today? What was Evan thinking about? I'd started paying attention after that. Not obsessively, not jealously, just paying attention. I noticed when she started showering more frequently. When she bought new underwear, expensive lace, things she never wore around me anymore. When she began taking calls in the car, in the garage, anywhere but near me. I noticed the overnight trips that multiplied, the weekend strategy sessions, the conferences that required her to leave Thursday and not return until Monday. I noticed that she stopped touching me, not dramatically, not with any announcement. But the casual intimacy that marks a real marriage, the hand on the shoulder while passing, the kiss on the cheek, the accidental brush while reaching for the same cabinet, all of it evaporated like morning dew. Most of all, I noticed Evan Hale, 46 years old, managing partner, divorced once already, a father of 3 kids he barely saw, the kind of man who wore his success like armor, who treated the world like it owed him everything he wanted. I'd met him twice at firm events. Both times he'd looked through me like I was help. Laura talked about him constantly. Evan said this. Evan thinks that. Evan's strategy for the client. Evan's approach to negotiation. Evan, until his name became a drumbeat in our house, steady and relentless. And I'd said nothing, because I'd learned something important during my 15 years with Laura. She didn't respond to confrontation. She didn't respect emotional outbursts or demands for truth. She respected strategy. She respected people who thought 3 moves ahead. So I'd smiled. I'd been understanding. I'd played the role of the supportive husband who trusted his wife, who believed in her professional dedication, who would never imagine she was capable of betrayal. And while I smiled, I'd been gathering information. I knew about the country house near Woodbridge. Laura had mentioned it once in passing 6 weeks ago, complaining about the firm's property maintenance costs. She'd said the address out loud while reviewing the expense report. 847 Lakewood Drive. I knew Evan would be there because I'd overheard her confirm the plans on a call yesterday. She'd been in the backyard, thought I was in the garage, and her voice had carried through the open window. Yes, 2 o'clock, I'll bring the wine. Red, like you said. Wine. For a work presentation. Sure. I finished my cold coffee and stood up. The kitchen was spotless, everything in its place. Our stainless steel appliances gleamed. The granite countertops showed no fingerprints. It looked like a showroom, like nobody actually lived here. Which, in a way, was true. We didn't live here. We existed here. 2 people sharing space, but not lives. I walked to my office, the spare bedroom Laura had let me convert when she needed the actual office for herself. I opened my laptop and pulled up the file I'd been building. Photos, receipts, calendar entries cross-referenced with her credit card statements, mileage logs from her car that didn't match the locations she'd claimed to visit, hotel charges from cities where she supposedly attended conferences, except the conferences' websites showed no registration under her name. None of it was definitive. Not yet. Any single piece could be explained away. But together, they painted a picture that was crystal clear. My wife was having an affair with Evan Hale, and this weekend she was going to spend 2 days alone with him at a secluded country house, probably in the same bed, definitely not working on any presentation. She thought I was clueless. She thought I was safe. She was wrong. I closed the laptop and looked out the window. The morning was clear, temperature in the mid-60s, perfect early autumn weather. The kind of day that made you believe in new beginnings or endings. I picked up my phone and called Tom Weaver. He answered on the second ring. Dan, what's up? You busy this weekend? I asked. Define busy. Available for a drive, maybe some surveillance work. There was a pause. Tom and I had been friends since college, 20 years of history that included 3 apartment leases, 2 failed business ventures, and countless nights talking about everything and nothing. He knew me better than almost anyone. This about Laura? He asked quietly. Yeah. Where are we going? I gave him the address. Another pause, longer this time. You sure about this, Dan? Once you see something, you can't unsee it. I watched a bird land on our fence, a cardinal, bright red against the weathered wood. It sat there for a moment, perfectly still, then flew away. I'm already sure, I said. Now I just need proof. All right, what time? She leaves at 2. We'll give her an hour head start. Meet me at 3. I'll be there. I hung up and sat in the silence of my office. The house felt different now, like it was holding its breath, waiting for whatever came next. From upstairs, I heard Laura moving around in our bedroom, packing for her weekend, the sound of her suitcase zipper, the closet door opening and closing, the confident, unhurried movements of someone who thought they'd gotten away with it. I wondered if Evan Hale knew what kind of person Laura really was, if he understood that she didn't do anything without calculating the cost and benefit, that her affection was transactional, her loyalty conditional, that she'd chosen him not because of some grand passion, but because he offered her something, status, advancement, validation. Probably not. Men like Evan never saw it coming. They thought they were special, different, the exception to every rule. He was about to learn otherwise. I checked the time, 9:47 a.m., less than 6 hours until she left, less than 7 until I followed her. I opened my laptop again and pulled up Google Maps, studying the route to Woodbridge, memorizing the turns, checking for alternate roads and places to park discreetly. The country house sat on 2 acres backing up to state forest land, isolated enough for privacy but accessible by a single-lane private road that connected to the main highway. One way in, one way out. Perfect. My phone buzzed. A text from Laura. Forgot to mention, if you need anything while I'm gone, I'll have spotty cell service. The house Wi-Fi is terrible. Don't worry if I don't respond right away. I read it twice, then smiled. Of course she'd cover that angle. Of course she'd establish plausible deniability for not answering calls or texts. She'd probably told Evan the same thing, told him to warn his wife that he'd be unreachable because of the poor reception. Except I'd checked the coverage maps. Woodbridge had 4 bars of service on every major carrier. I texted back, no problem, focus on your work, I'll be fine. 3 dots appeared immediately, then, you're the best, love you. Love you. 2 words she hadn't said with any sincerity in at least a year. 2 words that used to mean everything and now meant less than nothing. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to the garage and started preparing. I pulled out my camera, a decent DSLR I'd bought for a photography hobby I'd never quite developed, and made sure the memory card was empty and the battery fully charged. I grabbed my binoculars from the camping gear. I found a dark jacket, dark cap, shoes that wouldn't make noise on gravel or leaves. Not because I planned to do anything illegal, but because I planned to be thorough. At 1:45 p.m., I heard Laura's car start in the driveway. I watched from the window as she backed out, her silver Audi gleaming in the afternoon sun. She didn't look at the house, didn't wave goodbye. She just put the car in drive and left, already focused on wherever she was going, whatever she was about to do. I stood there until her car disappeared around the corner. Then I went upstairs to our bedroom. Her closet was open, half empty. She'd taken her good clothes, the outfits that showed off the figure she maintained with 3 gym sessions a week, and a diet I'd stopped trying to share. She'd taken her makeup, her jewelry, her perfume. On her nightstand sat a framed photo of us from our honeymoon in Greece. 15 years ago, standing on a beach in Santorini, both of us young and happy and stupid with hope. I picked it up, studied our faces. We looked like different people. We were different people. I set it back down, face down, and walked out. At 2:55 p.m., Tom pulled into my driveway in his old Ford pickup. I locked the house, climbed into the passenger seat, and nodded at him. "Ready?" he asked. I looked back at our house one more time. The perfect lawn, the perfect windows, the perfect lie. "Yeah," I said. "Let's go." He put the truck in gear, and we headed north, toward Woodbridge, toward whatever truth was waiting there. The afternoon stretched out before us, clear and bright and full of terrible possibility. The drive to Woodbridge took exactly 93 minutes. Tom didn't ask questions. He never did. That's why we'd stayed friends for 2 decades, while everyone else from college had drifted away into their own lives, their own problems. Tom understood that sometimes a man just needed silence and company in equal measure. We took Route 15 north, then cut west on the old highway that wound through state forest land. The traffic thinned out as we left the suburbs behind, strip malls and housing developments giving way to trees still holding on to their summer green, just beginning to show hints of the colors that would come with October. I'd printed out the directions before we left, not because I didn't trust GPS, but because I didn't want any digital record of this trip. No search history, no location tracking, just an old-fashioned piece of paper folded in my pocket. "Take the next left," I said as we approached County Road 47. "Then it's about 6 miles to Lakewood Drive." Tom signaled and turned, even though we hadn't seen another car in 15 minutes. Force of habit. The road narrowed, became rougher, the asphalt cracked and patched in places where winter frost had heaved it up, and nobody had bothered to fix it properly. "Isolated out here," Tom observed. "That's the point." He glanced at me. "You thought about what you're going to do if you're right?" "I'm right." "Okay, but what are you going to do?" I watched the trees pass by, thick enough in places that they blocked the sky. "I'm going to document it, take photos, then I'm going to use them." "Use them how?" "However does the most harm." Tom was quiet for a moment. Then, "This about revenge or divorce? Can't it be both? Usually it's smarter to pick one. Revenge clouds judgment. Divorce needs clear thinking." "I'll think clearly," I said. "Right after I make them both regret it." He didn't argue. Tom had been divorced himself 3 years ago, had learned the hard way that some betrayals cut too deep for rational responses. His ex-wife had cleaned him out. The house, the savings, even the dog. He'd spent a year barely holding it together. We'd sat in bars and talked through his options. Legal options, illegal options, options that lived in the gray space between. In the end, he'd taken the high road, signed the papers, moved into a studio apartment, and rebuilt his life from scratch. He'd told me once that he regretted being civilized about it. "Lakewood Drive should be coming up," I said, checking the odometer. "Another mile, maybe less." Tom slowed down. "How do you want to play this?" "Drive past first. Don't slow down. Don't make it obvious. I'll look for her car." "And if you see it?" "Then we find somewhere to park and figure out the approach." The GPS on my phone showed we were close, even though I'd turned off the navigation. I'd studied satellite images of the area for an hour this morning. The country house sat on a private lot carved out of the forest, accessed by a gravel driveway that branched off Lakewood Drive. The house itself was 2 stories, stone and timber construction, designed to look rustic and expensive. Property records showed Thornton and Associates had bought it 4 years ago as a corporate retreat facility. Translation: a place where partners could bring clients for weekends of golf, drinks, and deals made away from the scrutiny of office walls, or a place where partners could bring their affairs. There, I said, spotting the mailbox marked 847. That's the driveway. Tom maintained his speed as we approached. I turned my head casually, as if admiring the scenery, and caught a glimpse up the gravel drive. 2 cars parked in front of the house, Laura's silver Audi, and a black BMW with vanity plates. A Hale 1. My stomach dropped and tightened simultaneously, like I'd swallowed ice and fire at the same time. They're both there, I said quietly. Tom kept driving, didn't slow down, didn't react. You sure about the second car? Evan Hale's plates. I've seen them at firm events. All right, so what now? Good question. I'd known this moment would come, had prepared for it mentally, but the actual confirmation still hit harder than expected, seeing her car next to his. Both of them parked side by side like they belonged there together. Find a place to turn around, I said. Then we need a spot to park where the truck won't be visible from the road. Tom drove another quarter mile, found a wide spot where a Forest Service road intersected, and turned the truck around. We headed back slowly, both of us scanning the roadside. There, Tom said, pointing to a gap in the trees about 200 yards before Lakewood Drive. Old logging road, looks like. We can get the truck off the main road, hide it in the trees. Do it. He pulled onto what was barely more than a trail, branches scraping the sides of the truck as we eased forward. 30 feet in, the trail widened into a small clearing where someone had dumped an old refrigerator and a stack of rotting tires. Classy. Tom parked and shut off the engine. The silence of the forest closed in immediately. No traffic sounds, no distant voices, just the whisper of wind through leaves and the occasional bird call. Long walk back to the house, he said. Not that long, quarter mile maybe. Through woods. You got a better idea? He shrugged. Not really. Just making sure you know what you're committing to. I opened my door and climbed out. The air smelled like pine and damp earth, that specific autumn scent of things starting to decay. I grabbed my camera, checked that the lens cap was off, and slung the strap around my neck. Tom got out and locked the truck. He'd worn dark jeans and a navy jacket, practical clothes that wouldn't stand out. He looked at me, raised an eyebrow. Lead the way. We started walking back along the main road, staying just inside the tree line where we'd be harder to spot. The forest floor was carpeted with leaves and pine needles, relatively quiet under our feet. Every 20 yards or so, I stopped and listened, making sure we weren't walking into something unexpected. The house came into view through the trees, 2 stories of carefully arranged stone and timber, large windows reflecting the afternoon light, a wraparound porch that probably looked gorgeous in summer. Expensive, tasteful, isolated, perfect for people who wanted to pretend they weren't doing anything wrong. We stayed in the tree line, working our way around to get a better angle. The gravel driveway curved up from the road, creating a circular approach in front of the house. Both cars were there, exactly as I'd glimpsed them. Laura's Audi still had dealer plates frame. She was obsessive about keeping it clean. Evan's BMW was dustier, one of those men who thought expensive cars didn't need maintenance because they were expensive. Can you see inside? Tom whispered. I raised my camera, adjusted the zoom. Through the large front windows, I could see into what looked like a living room. Leather furniture, stone fireplace, track lighting creating careful pools of illumination. No people visible. They're probably deeper in the house, I said. Bedrooms likely upstairs. So what's the plan? Wait for them to come outside? Or wait for a window view? Tom shifted his weight, leaves crunching under his boots. Could be a long wait. He was right. They might stay inside all evening, all weekend. They hadn't driven an hour and a half to admire the architecture, but I had time, all the time in the world. We settled into positions behind a thick oak tree that offered good cover and a clear sightline to the house. Tom leaned against the trunk, arms crossed. I knelt, camera ready, and waited. Surveillance is 90% patience and 10% timing. I'd learned that in my job as an operations manager, coordinating shipments and logistics. You couldn't force things to happen on your schedule. You had to wait for the moment when everything aligned, then act decisively. This was no different. 15 minutes passed. A crow landed on the porch railing, pecked at something, flew away. 30 minutes. The sun shifted lower, changing the angle of light through the windows. 45 minutes. My knees started to ache from kneeling. I shifted position carefully, keeping the camera steady. Then movement. A shape passed by one of the upstairs windows. Brief, barely there, but definitely human. I brought the camera up, focused on that window, and waited. Nothing. 5 more minutes of nothing. Then the curtains moved and Laura appeared in the window, looking out at the forest. She wore a white robe, her hair down and loose around her shoulders. The late afternoon light made everything soft-focused, almost cinematic. She was smiling. I pressed the shutter. Once, twice, 3 times. She turned to speak to someone inside the room, someone I couldn't see. Her expression was animated, happy, completely relaxed. I'd forgotten she could look like that. Young, unguarded, present. Then Evan Hale stepped into view beside her. He wore jeans and nothing else, his chest bare, his hair messy. He said something that made her laugh, then put his arm around her waist and pulled her close. She leaned into him, rested her head on his shoulder, and they stood there together looking out at the trees. At the private world they thought belonged only to them. I took 23 photos in the span of 4 minutes. I captured them talking, laughing, her reaching up to touch his face, him kissing her forehead. The casual intimacy of 2 people who'd done this before, who were comfortable with each other, who weren't just having a fling, but were deep into something real, or what they thought was real. Finally, they moved away from the window, disappearing back into the room. I lowered the camera. My hands were shaking slightly, not from anger, not from sadness, but from the simple adrenaline rush of confirmation, of seeing with my own eyes what I'd known intellectually but hadn't witnessed until now. Tom touched my shoulder. "You get what you needed?" "Yeah." "Then let's go before they decide to take a walk or something." He was right. We'd been exposed out here for over an hour, and if either of them came outside for fresh air or to check the cars, they might spot us. Time to extract. We backed away from the tree line carefully, retracing our steps toward where we'd left the truck. Neither of us spoke. The forest felt different now, heavier, like it had absorbed what I'd witnessed and was holding it close. When we reached the truck, Tom unlocked it and we climbed in. He started the engine but didn't put it in gear yet. "You all right?" he asked. I looked at my camera, at the LCD screen showing the last photo I'd taken. Laura and Evan standing in the window, silhouetted against the warm interior light, 2 people who thought they'd found something worth risking everything for. "I'm fine," I said. "Drive." Tom didn't speak again until we hit the main highway heading back south. "What's your next move?" he finally asked. I was scrolling through the photos on my camera's view screen, examining each one. Some were blurry, taken when my hands had shaken, but most were clear enough to prove exactly what was happening in that house. "I need to think," I said. "Think fast. They'll be back Sunday evening, right? That gives you maybe 36 hours before she's home and acting normal." Normal. That was a word that didn't mean anything anymore. What was normal? Coming home to a wife who smiled at me while thinking about another man? Eating dinner together while she texted her lover under the table? Sleeping in the same bed while she counted down the hours until she could see him again? That had been my normal for 3 months. I wasn't going back to it. "I'm not confronting her," I said. "Not yet." "Then what?" I looked out at the passing trees, the afternoon light stretching shadows across the highway. "There's someone else who deserves to know." Tom was quiet for a moment. Then, his wife. "Megan Hale. That's nuclear, Dan. You know that, right? You bring her into this, there's no walking it back." "Good. I'm serious. You could—" "I know what I'm doing," I interrupted. "Evan Hale has 3 kids. He's got a family, and he's throwing it away for my wife. So yeah, his wife deserves to know what kind of man she's married to." Tom drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, thinking. "You know where she lives? Same place as him? They're still married." "You sure? You said he was divorced once already." "That was his first marriage. Megan's his second wife. They've been together 8 years. I'd done my research. Public records were shockingly easy to access if you knew where to look. Property deeds, marriage licenses, court documents. They live at 412 Clearwater Court, about 20 minutes from my place." "When do you want to go?" "Tomorrow, Saturday morning, while Evan's still an hour away with Laura." "You want me there?" I considered it. Tom was offering backup, moral support, someone to keep me from saying or doing something stupid. But this wasn't his fight, and involving him further meant potentially putting him at risk if things went sideways. "No," I said. "This one I do alone." He nodded slowly. "Just be careful. Woman's going to be defensive, angry, might not want to hear it." "She'll hear it. Might not believe you." "I've got photos." "Photos can be explained away." "Oh, we were just standing at a window together." "My business partner is allowed to give me a hug. Megan's going to want any excuse not to believe you." He had a point. People were excellent at denial when the truth was too painful to face. I'd spent 3 months demonstrating that principle myself, finding reasons to explain away every suspicious text, every late night, every distant look from Laura. But photos were different. Photos captured moments, and the moments I'd captured weren't ambiguous. We drove in silence for another 30 minutes. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Beautiful. The kind of sunset Laura used to make me stop and appreciate back when we were young and still thought we were building something permanent together. When had that changed? When had we shifted from partners to strangers? I couldn't pinpoint a specific moment. It had been gradual. Erosion instead of explosion. 1,000 small abandonments that added up to one massive betrayal. Maybe this had been inevitable. Maybe we'd been headed here from the start and just hadn't known it. Or maybe that was just me trying to make sense of something senseless. Tom dropped me off at my house at 6:30 p.m. The windows were dark, empty, a house waiting for someone to give it meaning. "Call me if you need anything," Tom said as I climbed out. "I will. Thanks for today." "Anytime." I watched him drive away, then unlocked my front door and stepped into the silent entryway. The house felt bigger when Laura wasn't here, the rooms echoing differently, the air stale and still. I went straight to my office, connected the camera to my laptop, and began transferring the photos. While they copied over, I pulled up property records for Clearwater Court, confirming the address, checking the ownership details. The house was in both names, Evan and Megan Hale, purchased 6 years ago for $340,000, currently valued at about $420,000. They'd built equity together, built a life, had 3 kids who needed both parents present and stable, and Evan was risking all of it for an affair with my wife. The file transfer completed. I opened the folder, selected the clearest photos, and studied them on the larger monitor. Laura standing in the window in her white robe, Evan shirtless beside her, both of them smiling, comfortable, intimate. I created a new folder on my desktop labeled Evidence and copied the photos into it. Then I made backups, one on an external hard drive, one uploaded to a cloud storage account I'd created specifically for this purpose. Redundancy. Because if Laura found out what I was planning and tried to destroy the evidence, I needed to make sure copies existed beyond her reach. My phone buzzed. A text from Laura. "Hey, just checking in. Reception here is worse than I thought. Barely 1 bar. Don't worry if I go dark for a bit. Love you." I stared at the message for a long time. She was lying. Lying so smoothly, so casually, like it cost her nothing. Like I meant so little that she didn't even need to put effort into her deceptions. I didn't respond. Instead, I put my phone face down on the desk and returned to planning. Tomorrow morning, I'd drive to 412 Clearwater Court. I'd knock on the door, and I'd tell Megan Hale everything. What happened after that was up to her. But I had a feeling, a certainty really, that once she knew the truth, she wouldn't just quietly accept it. People like Megan Hale, people with 3 kids and 8 years invested in a marriage, didn't react well to learning their spouse was having an affair. They reacted loudly, messily, publicly. Exactly what I was counting on. I spent the rest of the evening preparing. I printed out the best photos, 8x10s, clear and undeniable. I practiced what I'd say, running through different approaches, different opening lines. Too aggressive and Megan might shut down. Too passive and she might dismiss me as paranoid. I needed to be factual, calm, sympathetic without being patronizing. "Mrs. Hale, I'm Daniel Cross. I believe our spouses are having an affair. Here's proof." Simple, direct, impossible to misunderstand. At 10 p.m., I tried to sleep but couldn't. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, imagining Laura an hour north, lying in bed with Evan Hale, both of them thinking they had gotten away with it. They hadn't. Not even close. I got up at 6 a.m., showered, dressed in jeans and a button-down shirt. Presentable but not formal. I wanted to look like a concerned husband, not a lawyer serving papers. The drive to Clearwater Court took 18 minutes. The neighborhood was upper middle class, houses spaced comfortably apart, lawns well-maintained, trees lining the streets, the kind of place where people bought riding mowers and argued about property lines and HOA regulations. Number 412 was a 2-story colonial painted pale yellow with white trim. 3 cars in the driveway, a minivan, a sedan, and a smaller compact that probably belonged to one of the older kids. Toys scattered across the front yard, a basketball hoop above the garage door, evidence of a functioning family. I parked across the street, engine still running, and sat there for 5 minutes gathering my nerve. This was the point of no return. Once I knocked on that door, once I showed Megan those photos, I'd set something in motion that couldn't be stopped. Marriages would end, Kids would suffer. Lives would rearrange themselves around the rubble of trust that I was about to demolish. Part of me, a small part that still remembered who I used to be before all this, wanted to start the car and drive away, wanted to go home, delete the photos, and pretend I'd never seen anything. Live in the comfortable lie rather than the uncomfortable truth. But that part was outvoted by every other part of me that was tired of being lied to, tired of being treated like I didn't matter, tired of watching my wife smile at me while planning her next weekend with another man. I turned off the engine, grabbed the envelope with the photos, got out of the car, walked across the street, up the driveway, onto the porch, and rang the doorbell. Footsteps approached from inside the house. Light, quick, probably one of the kids. The door swung open to reveal a girl, maybe 13 years old, wearing pajama pants and an oversized t-shirt. She had dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail and her father's sharp eyes. "Yeah," she said, looking me up and down with teenage suspicion. "Is your mother home?" I asked, keeping my voice gentle. "Who are you?" "My name is Daniel Cross. I need to speak with her about something important." The girl's eyes narrowed. She had that look kids get when an adult stranger shows up asking for their parent, wariness mixed with the vague sense that something's wrong. "Mom," she called over her shoulder. "Some guy's here." A woman's voice from deeper in the house. "Who is it, Riley?" "I don't know. Says his name is Daniel something." More footsteps, heavier this time. Then Megan Hale appeared behind her daughter. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with light brown hair cut to shoulder length, minimal makeup, wearing jeans and a gray sweater. Pretty in an understated way, the kind of woman who didn't need to try hard because confidence did the work for her, or at least it had before this moment. Because the instant she saw me standing on her porch with an envelope in my hands, something in her expression shifted. Not fear, exactly, more like recognition, like she'd been waiting for this knock on the door, this stranger with news, and now here it finally was. "Can I help you?" she asked, her hand resting protectively on her daughter's shoulder. "Mrs. Hale, my name is Daniel Cross. I'm Laura Cross's husband. I need to speak with you privately. It's urgent." Her face went very still. "Riley, go upstairs." "But Mom?" "Now please." The girl looked between us, clearly wanting to know what was happening, but smart enough to recognize the tone that meant don't argue. She disappeared up the stairs, footsteps retreating into the second floor. Megan stepped out onto the porch and pulled the door mostly closed behind her, leaving it open just a crack. "What is this about?" I took a breath. This was it. The moment where I either delivered the information cleanly or fumbled it and lost her attention. "Your husband is having an affair with my wife," I said. "They're together right now at a country house in Woodbridge. I have proof." The color drained from her face, but she didn't look surprised. Not really. More like she'd suspected and was now having those suspicions confirmed by a stranger on her porch at 9 a.m. "That's a serious accusation," she said quietly. "I know. That's why I brought evidence." I held up the envelope. "Photos. From yesterday afternoon. They think they're alone. They're not." Megan stared at the envelope like it might contain a live grenade. Her hand came up halfway, then dropped back to her side. I can't. I understand this is difficult," I said, gentler now. "But you deserve to know the truth. Your kids deserve a parent who isn't lying to them." That got through. Her eyes snapped back to mine, sharp and angry. "Don't talk about my children. I'm not trying to cause pain. I'm trying to give you information you can use to protect them and yourself. By showing me pictures of my husband with another woman? By showing you evidence that he's been lying to you. How many weekends has he been gone this year? How many business trips? How many late nights at the office?" Her jaw tightened. She looked away, out at the quiet suburban street. A neighbor was mowing his lawn 3 houses down. A car drove past slowly, radio playing something with heavy bass. Normal Saturday morning sounds. "He said he was working," she said finally, almost to herself. "The firm's doing this big merger. He said they needed him all weekend to prep." "That's what my wife told me too." "And you followed them?" "After I saw them together in Woodbridge, yes." She was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then, "Show me." I opened the envelope and pulled out the photos, holding them so she could see but not handing them over yet. I wanted her to ask for them, to make the conscious choice to look. The first photo showed the country house, both cars in the driveway. Clear, undeniable. The second showed Laura and Evan in the upstairs window, Laura in her white robe, Evan shirtless, both smiling. The third captured them closer together, his arm around her waist. Megan made a small sound, something between a gasp and a moan. Her hand came up to her mouth. "There are more," I said quietly, "but you get the idea." Give them to me. I handed over the photos. She took them with shaking hands and flipped through each one slowly, methodically, like she was memorizing every detail. Her breathing got faster, more shallow. Tears formed at the corners of her eyes but didn't fall. How long? She whispered. I've known for 3 months, but I think it started before that. 3 months! She looked up at me, and the pain in her eyes was raw, unfiltered. He's been lying to me for 3 months. Probably longer. And you just watched? You just let it happen? There was accusation in her voice, anger looking for a target. I understood that. I'd felt it too. That rage at myself for not confronting the situation sooner, for being passive while my life fell apart. I needed proof, I said. Without it, they just deny everything. Make me look paranoid. Maybe even convince me I was wrong. Are these the only copies? No, I have backups. Why are you showing me this? Why not just divorce your wife and move on? Good question. One I'd asked myself a dozen times while planning this moment. Because Evan Hale doesn't get to walk away from this without consequences, I said. He's got 3 kids, a wife, a home, and he's risking all of it. You deserve to know what kind of man you're married to, what kind of father he is. Megan looked down at the photos again. Her hands had stopped shaking, replaced by something colder, more controlled. These were taken yesterday? Yes, around 4 p.m. And they're still there now? As far as I know. My wife said she'd be back Sunday evening. Megan's jaw set in a hard line. She looked back into her house, where I could hear the faint sounds of her kids moving around upstairs. Then she looked back at me. I want to see them, she said. What? I want to see them, in person, at that house. Her voice was steady now, certain. You know where it is. Take me there. I hadn't expected this. I'd thought maybe she'd confront Evan when he got home, or call a lawyer, or cry and process and figure out her next move over days or weeks. I hadn't expected her to want immediate confrontation. Are you sure? I asked. Once you see it in person, there's no... I'm sure. She cut me off. I need to see it with my own eyes. I need him to see me seeing it. And I'm bringing the kids. The kids? Riley, Jacob, and Emma, ages 13, 10, and 7. They're coming with me. Mrs. Hale, I don't think... He's their father. Her voice was hard now, protective and furious. If he's going to throw away this family, then they deserve to know why. They deserve to see who he really is. This was escalating faster than I'd anticipated. Bringing the kids added a layer of complexity I hadn't planned for. But looking at Megan's face, at the determination there mixed with barely contained rage, I realized I wasn't going to change her mind. And honestly, part of me didn't want to. Let Evan see his children's faces when they discovered what he'd done. Let him carry that image forever. All right, I said. When do you want to go? Now. Right now. She turned toward the door, then paused. Give me 10 minutes to get the kids ready. What are you going to tell them? The truth? That their father lied and we're going to go see why. She disappeared inside before I could respond. I stood on the porch, listening to muffled voices from inside the house. Megan calling the kids downstairs, questions from the children, her responses, calm but firm, brokering no argument. This was really happening. In about 15 minutes, I was going to lead Megan Hale and her 3 children to a country house an hour away, where they'd confront Evan and Laura in the middle of their romantic weekend. It would be devastating. It would be brutal. It would be exactly what they both deserved. The door opened again, and Megan emerged, followed by her 3 kids. The oldest, Riley, looked suspicious and worried. The middle child, a boy with messy brown hair, looked confused. The youngest, a little girl with pigtails, looked excited, like this was an adventure. Everyone in the van, Megan said. We're going for a drive. Where? Riley asked. To see your father. But Dad's at work. No, Megan said, her voice tight. He's not. She looked at me. You're leading the way. Don't lose me on the highway. I nodded and headed to my car. Behind me, I heard the kids piling into the minivan, asking questions, Megan's short responses as she buckled the youngest into her car seat. I started my engine and waited until Megan pulled out of the driveway behind me. Then I headed north, toward Woodbridge, toward the confrontation that would shatter at least 2 families. The morning was clear and bright, perfect weather for destroying lives. The drive felt longer with Megan's minivan in my rearview mirror. I kept checking to make sure she was still there, that she hadn't changed her mind and turned around. But she stayed close, never more than 2 car lengths behind, her face visible through the windshield, set, determined, focused on the road ahead. The kids were visible too. Riley in the passenger seat staring out the window, the younger 2 in the back, The boy playing with something on his phone, the little girl bouncing in her car seat, pointing at things outside. They had no idea what they were about to see. Part of me felt sick about that. 7 years old was too young to learn that parents could betray each other, that families could shatter, that the world wasn't safe even at home. But another part of me, the part that had been lied to for months, that had smiled and pretended everything was fine while my wife planned weekends with another man, that part felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Evan Hale had made his choices. Now he'd face them in front of the people who mattered most. We passed through the same small towns I'd driven through yesterday with Tom. The strip malls, the gas stations, the tree-lined stretches of highway where civilization thinned out and forest took over. My phone rang. Laura. I let it go to voicemail, then checked the message a minute later. Hey babe, just wanted to say good morning. I know the service is bad here, but I miss you. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Love you. Her voice was warm, affectionate, completely convincing. If I didn't know better, if I hadn't seen the photos, if I hadn't watched her stand in that window with another man's arm around her waist, I might have believed her. That was the worst part. Not the affair itself, but how effortlessly she lied, how natural it sounded. I deleted the message and kept driving. We reached County Road 47 and turned west. The road narrowed, the trees pressed closer. Megan's van stayed right behind me, matching my speed, unwavering. 5 miles to Lakewood Drive. 4 miles. 3. My heart rate picked up despite myself. I'd thought about this moment constantly since yesterday, had played out different scenarios in my head, but now that it was actually happening, adrenaline flooded my system. What would Laura's face look like when she saw me? Shock? Anger? Fear? What would Evan do? Would he try to explain? Deny? Run? And what would the kids do when they saw their father with a woman who wasn't their mother? 2 miles. I could see Megan in my mirror, talking to Riley. The teenager looked increasingly agitated, twisting in her seat to say something to her mother. Megan shook her head, gestured forward, kept driving. 1 mile. The mailbox marked 8:47 came into view. I slowed, put on my turn signal even though there was no one else on the road, and turned onto the gravel driveway. Behind me, Megan followed. The tires crunched on gravel, loud in the forest silence. Trees pressed close on both sides, creating a tunnel effect that made the house invisible until the last moment. Then the driveway curved and opened up into the circular approach. Both cars were still there. Laura's silver Audi, Evan's black BMW. I parked off to the side, leaving room for Megan to pull up beside me. She did, shutting off the engine but not immediately getting out. Through her window, I could see her gripping the steering wheel, taking deep breaths, preparing herself. Riley had her phone out, probably texting someone. The boy, Jacob, was leaning forward, looking at the house with interest. Emma, the youngest, was trying to unbuckle her car seat. I got out first. The house looked different in morning light. Less romantic, more stark. The windows that had glowed warmly yesterday now just reflected the surrounding trees. The wraparound porch showed wear, peeling paint, loose boards, the reality behind the rustic aesthetic. Megan's door opened. She climbed out, then opened the back to help Emma with her seatbelt. Riley got out on her own, staring at the house with growing understanding. "Whose cars are those?" she asked. "One belongs to your father," Megan said quietly. "The other belongs to a woman named Laura Cross." "Who's that?" "Someone your father works with." Jacob had gotten out now too, standing beside his older sister. "Why are we here?" "To talk to your father." "But why couldn't we just talk to him at home?" "Because," Megan said, taking Emma's hand, "sometimes you need to see things to believe them." She looked at me. "Let's go." We walked up the porch steps together, Megan leading with Emma's hand in hers, Riley and Jacob following, me bringing up the rear. The wood creaked under our feet. Somewhere in the forest, a bird called out, sharp and sudden. Megan didn't knock. She tried the doorknob, found it unlocked, and pushed it open. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that felt like holding breath. We stepped into the entryway. Hardwood floors. A staircase leading up to the second floor. To the right, the living room I'd seen through the windows yesterday. To the left, a hallway leading deeper into the house. "Evan?" Megan called out. Her voice echoed slightly in the empty space. No response. "Dad?" Riley tried, louder. Still nothing. We moved forward, past the living room. The leather furniture sat empty. Wine glasses on the coffee table, 2 of them, red residue at the bottom. A throw blanket crumpled on the couch, evidence of the evening they'd spent together. "Upstairs," Megan said, heading for the staircase. We followed her up. Emma's small hand gripped the railing, Jacob close behind her, Riley moving with increasing dread evident in her slow steps. The second floor had a long hallway with 3 doors, 2 open, revealing a bathroom and what looked like a guest bedroom, 1 closed. Megan walked straight to the closed door. Didn't hesitate, didn't knock. She turned the handle and pushed it open. The bedroom beyond was large, dominated by a king-size bed with white sheets tangled and half pulled back. Morning light streamed through the window I'd watched them stand in yesterday. And in the bed, under those white sheets, were Laura and Evan. They were sitting up, facing away from the door, clearly in the middle of a conversation. Laura's dark hair was messy, falling over her bare shoulders. Evan was shirtless, one arm stretched behind his head. They didn't hear us at first. Laura was saying something, her voice low and intimate, and Evan was laughing. Then Emma said, "Daddy?" Both of them froze. The transformation was instantaneous. Evan's head whipped around, eyes going wide. Laura twisted to look over her shoulder, clutching the sheet to her chest. For one perfect, crystalline moment, no one moved. We all stood there in the doorway, me, Megan, 3 kids, staring at the 2 people in bed together. Then everything erupted at once. "What the—" Evan started, scrambling backward in the bed. "Oh my God," Laura gasped, her face going white. "Dad?" Jacob said, his voice small and confused. Riley's hand came up to her mouth, understanding crashing over her face like a wave. Emma just stared, not comprehending, holding her mother's hand. Megan's voice cut through it all, cold and clear. "Hello, Evan." He was trying to get out of bed, grabbing for pants on the floor, the sheet tangling around his legs. "Megan, this isn't... We were just... Don't," she said. "Don't you dare try to explain this." Laura had pulled the sheet up higher, covering herself, but her eyes were locked on me. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" "Bringing the truth to light," I said. My voice was calmer than I felt. Seemed like the right thing to do. "You followed me?" "You lied to me. Seemed fair." Evan had gotten his pants on now, was looking around frantically for a shirt. His chest was flushed, his hair sticking up in every direction. "Kids, I can explain." "Daddy, why are you in bed with that lady?" Emma asked, her voice high and confused. Riley turned and ran. Her footsteps pounded down the hallway, down the stairs, out of the house. Jacob just stood there, staring at his father, his expression shifting from confusion to hurt to something harder, something that looked like anger. "Jacob," Evan started toward his son. "Don't," Megan said, stepping between them. "Don't you dare touch him." Laura had found a robe, the white one from yesterday, and was putting it on with shaking hands. "Daniel, please, can we just talk about this privately?" "No," I said. "No more private talks. No more lies. Everyone gets to see the truth now." "You're being ridiculous," she said, but her voice wavered. We were working, and things just, Stop, Megan said, her voice like ice. "Just stop talking, both of you." She looked at Evan, really looked at him, and whatever she saw made her face harden even more. 8 years, 3 children, and you threw it away for this? "Megan, I never meant—" "For this?" she repeated, gesturing at Laura, who flinched. "For someone else's wife? For an affair?" "It's not an affair," Evan said desperately. "It's more than that. I have feelings." "Oh, you have feelings." Megan laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "Well, that makes it all better then. You have feelings, so betraying your family is justified." Jacob made a small sound, something between a sob and a gasp. He turned and ran too, following his sister out of the house. Now only Emma remained, still holding her mother's hand, looking between all the adults with wide, frightened eyes. "Emma, sweetheart," Megan said, her voice softening for just a moment. "Go wait in the car, okay? I'll be right there." "But, Mommy—" "Now, baby, please." Emma hesitated, then let go of her mother's hand and walked slowly out of the room. Her footsteps were quiet on the stairs, deliberate and careful, like she was afraid the house might collapse if she moved too fast. The moment she was gone, Megan turned back to Evan. "I want a divorce," she said, "and I'm taking the kids, and you're going to agree to every single term I propose, because if you don't, every person at your firm, every client, every partner will see those photos." She pointed at me. "He has them, multiple copies, and I'm not afraid to use them." Evan's face had gone from flushed to pale. "You can't—" "Megan, please, think about the kids." "I am thinking about the kids. I'm thinking about how their father is a liar who cares more about his own pleasure than their well-being. I'm thinking about how they just saw him in bed with another woman. I'm thinking about how I'm going to have to explain this to them for the rest of their lives." Laura spoke up, her voice small. I'm sorry. I never wanted. I don't care what you wanted, Megan said, not even looking at her. You're nothing to me. You're just the person who helped my husband destroy our family. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Evan? Don't come home. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Your things will be on the lawn by Tuesday. You can pick them up then. Megan? But she was already walking away, down the hallway, down the stairs, gone. I stood there for a moment longer, looking at Laura and Evan, both of them disheveled, exposed, trapped in the consequence of their choices. Laura's eyes met mine. Daniel, I can explain? No, I said. You really can't. I turned and followed Megan out of the house. The kids were already in the minivan when I got outside. Riley in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead with tears streaming down her face. Jacob in the back, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Emma in her car seat, silent and wide-eyed. Megan stood by the driver's door, one hand on the roof, taking deep breaths. When she heard me approach, she looked up. Thank you, she said quietly, for telling me. I'm sorry about... I gestured toward the house, toward the scene we just left. The kids shouldn't have had to see that. Yes, they should have. Her voice was hard again. They needed to know who their father really is. Better they learn now than spend years wondering why their parents got divorced. I wasn't sure I agreed, but it wasn't my decision to make. What happens now? Now I drive home, call a lawyer, start divorce proceedings. She opened her door. What about you? Same, probably. Good. They don't deserve our mercy. She climbed into the van, started the engine, and pulled out without looking back at the house. I watched her navigate down the gravel driveway, the van bouncing slightly over the ruts, disappearing into the tunnel of trees. Then I heard the front door of the house slam open. Laura stood on the porch, still in her white robe, barefoot, hair wild around her face. Daniel, wait! I walked to my car, didn't look back at her. Daniel, please, we need to talk about this. I opened my door. I made a mistake. I know I did, but we can work through this. I got in, started the engine. She was coming down the porch steps now, running across the gravel. Daniel, don't you dare just leave. We have 15 years together. That has to mean something. It did mean something. It meant I'd wasted 15 years on someone who'd throw it all away without a second thought. I put the car in reverse and backed down the driveway. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Laura stop running, watched her stand there in the middle of the gravel circle, one hand raised like she was trying to pull me back through sheer will. Then the trees swallowed her up, and she was gone. The drive back felt different, quieter, heavier, like I'd just completed some necessary but terrible task, and now my body was catching up with what I'd done. I'd destroyed 2 marriages in the span of 15 minutes. I'd traumatized 3 kids. I'd exposed my wife's affair in the cruelest way possible. And I felt... what? Satisfied? Vindicated? Hollow? All of those things and none of them. Mostly I felt tired. The kind of tired that goes deeper than sleep can fix. That settles into your bones and makes everything feel like it's moving through water. My phone rang. Laura. I declined the call. It rang again immediately. Laura again. I declined it again. A text came through. Please answer. We need to talk. I can explain everything. Another text. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Another. Say something, please. I turned off the phone. The highway stretched out before me, long and straight, leading back to a house that would no longer feel like home, leading back to a life that needed to be completely rebuilt from the foundation up. I thought about Megan and her kids, about the conversation happening in that minivan right now. What was she telling them? How was she explaining what they'd just seen? I thought about Evan, still at that country house, probably trying to figure out how his perfect weekend had collapsed so completely, probably calling his lawyer, probably panicking. I thought about Laura and what she was thinking as she watched me drive away. Was she scared, angry, regretful? Did it matter? She'd made her choices, repeatedly, consciously. She'd looked me in the eye and lied, smoothly and confidently, and she'd kept lying right up until the moment she got caught. The only thing she regretted was getting exposed. Traffic was light on a Saturday morning. I made good time, reaching the suburbs in just over an hour. I drove through neighborhoods that looked exactly like mine. Nice houses, nice cars, nice lawns, families living their nice lives behind nice facades, probably half of them hiding the same secrets Laura and I had been hiding. How many other men were driving around right now, oblivious to what their wives were doing? How many other women were pretending everything was fine while their husbands spent weekends with mistresses? How much of suburban life was just agreed-upon fiction? I reached my street and pulled into my driveway. The house looked the same as when I'd left it yesterday morning. Same windows, same door, same mailbox with our last name on it. But it wasn't the same. It would never be the same. I sat in my car for a long time, engine off, just staring at the structure that was supposed to represent our life together. 15 years of marriage, 15 years of building and planning and compromising and believing we were working towards something permanent. All of it gone in a single weekend. Eventually I got out and went inside. The house was silent, empty, waiting. I went to my office, turned my phone back on, and watched the notifications flood in. 17 missed calls from Laura, 23 text messages, 2 voicemails. I deleted everything without reading or listening. Then I opened my laptop and searched for divorce attorneys in my area. The top result was a firm called Harrison & Associates, specializing in high-conflict divorce proceedings. Perfect. I clicked through to their website, found their contact information, and composed an email. My name is Daniel Cross. My wife has been having an affair with her business partner. I have photographic evidence and multiple witnesses. I would like to schedule a consultation regarding divorce proceedings. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. It was 11:47 a.m. on a Saturday morning, less than 24 hours since Laura had told me she was spending the weekend at the country house. Less than 6 hours since I'd walked in on her with Evan Hale. My marriage was over, my wife's career was probably over once the story got out. Evan Hale's family was destroyed, and I was sitting alone in an empty house, feeling nothing and everything simultaneously. My phone rang. Tom. I answered. Hey. Dan, you okay? You sound weird. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. What happened? I told him. Everything. The drive to Megan's house, showing her the photos, bringing her and the kids to Woodbridge, walking in on Laura and Evan, the confrontation, the drive back. Tom was quiet for a long moment after I finished. Then, holy heck, Dan. Yeah. You really brought the kids? Megan insisted. I just drove. Those kids are going to need therapy. Probably, but that's not my problem. Another pause. You sure you're okay? You're talking like you're in shock. Was I? Maybe. Everything felt distant and unreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold from behind glass. I'm processing, I said. You want me to come over? No, I need to be alone for a bit. All right, but call me if you need anything, and I mean anything, even if it's 3 a.m. and you just need someone to sit with you in silence. Thanks, Tom. Seriously, you did something big today. Don't underestimate the emotional fallout. I won't. We hung up. I sat there in my office, in the silence, and tried to figure out what I was supposed to feel. Anger? I'd felt that already, burned through it over the past 3 months while watching Laura lie to me. Sadness? That was there, lurking underneath everything else, waiting for the shock to wear off so it could really sink in. Regret? Some? Maybe. Not about exposing the affair, that needed to happen. But about how the kids had been involved? That would stay with me. Satisfaction? A little. Seeing Laura's face when she realized I knew everything, that I'd documented everything, that she couldn't talk her way out of it, that had felt good in a dark, vindictive way. But mostly I felt empty. 15 years of my life had been built on a foundation that turned out to be sand, and now that it had washed away, I was left standing on nothing, trying to figure out how to start over. My phone buzzed. An email notification from Harrison & Associates. Mr. Cross, thank you for reaching out. We have an opening Monday morning at 9 a.m. if you're available. Please confirm and we'll schedule a consultation. Best regards, Patricia Harrison, Senior Partner. Monday morning, 2 days from now. I confirmed the appointment. Then I went to the kitchen and made coffee, because what else was I supposed to do? Life kept moving forward whether you were ready or not, and apparently mine was moving toward divorce proceedings and lawyers and dividing up assets with a woman who'd spent months lying to my face. While the coffee brewed, my phone rang again. Laura, still trying. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, another voicemail notification appeared. Against my better judgment, I played it. Her voice was ragged, tearful. Daniel, please just talk to me. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it. Please don't throw away everything we built together. Please. I love you. I'm coming home right now. I'll be there in an hour. Please be there. Please. I deleted the voicemail. Then I grabbed my coffee, got in my car, and drove to Tom's place. Because I didn't want to be there when Laura got home. I didn't want to hear her explanations or her apologies or her desperate attempts to salvage something that was already beyond repair. I wanted to sit with my friend in his small apartment and drink coffee and not talk about anything important until the shock wore off, and I could start feeling whatever I was supposed to feel. Tom opened his door before I could knock, took one look at my face, and stepped aside. "Come in." I did. He closed the door behind me and we sat on his couch, the same couch he'd slept on for 6 months after his divorce because he couldn't afford a bed, and we drank coffee in silence. Outside, the day was still bright and clear. Inside, everything was falling apart. And somehow, impossibly, I was still standing. For now, that was enough. I stayed at Tom's apartment until Sunday evening. We didn't talk much. Tom understood that sometimes the best support was just presence, being there without demanding explanations or forcing conversation. He made food. We watched television without really watching it. The hours passed slowly, each one feeling like I was waiting for something without knowing what. My phone kept buzzing. Laura, always Laura. Calls, texts, voicemails I didn't listen to. Around 6 p.m. on Sunday, Tom finally broke the silence. "You have to go home eventually." "I know. She's probably there, waiting." "I know that too. You ready for that conversation?" Was I? How do you prepare for the moment when you have to look at someone you once loved and tell them it's over? That every promise you made to each other was null and void because they chose to betray you? "No," I said honestly, "but I don't think waiting will make it easier." Tom nodded. "You want me to come with you? Sit in the car, be there if things get heated?" "No, I need to do this alone." "All right, but text me when it's done. Let me know you're okay." I stood up, grabbed my jacket. "Thanks for letting me hide out here." "Anytime. And Dan?" He looked at me seriously. "Don't let her manipulate you. She's going to try. Tears, apologies, promises to change. All of it. Don't fall for it." "I won't." "I mean it. I've seen this before. People who cheat don't just suddenly become honest because they got caught. They become better liars." His words settled over me like armor. I'll remember that. The drive home took 15 minutes. Every minute felt like an hour. I rehearsed what I'd say, how I'd say it, trying to anticipate Laura's responses. But it was pointless. You can't script a conversation like that. You just have to walk into it and survive. Laura's Audi was in the driveway when I pulled up. Every light in the house was on, making it glow against the darkening evening sky, like a beacon or a trap. I sat in my car for a moment, gathering myself. Then I got out and walked to the front door. It opened before I could reach for my keys. Laura stood there, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday, jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red-rimmed, puffy from crying. "Daniel," she said, her voice cracking. "Thank God. I've been so worried." I walked past her into the house. "We need to talk." "Yes. Yes, we do." She closed the door, followed me into the living room. "Please, just sit down and let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," I said, staying standing. "I saw everything. I know everything. There's no explanation that makes this okay." "I know. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you." Tears were already forming, spilling down her cheeks. "But it didn't mean what you think it meant." "What did it mean then?" "It was a mistake. A stupid, terrible mistake. I got caught up in the attention, in feeling wanted and important, and I didn't think about the consequences." "For 3 months," I interrupted. "You didn't think about the consequences for 3 months." She flinched. "How did you know it was 3 months?" "I've been watching, paying attention, documenting everything." Her face went pale. "Documenting?" "Photos, credit card statements, calendar entries, hotel records, all of it." "Daniel, you can't. Those are private. You're having an affair and you're worried about privacy?" The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. "Laura, you lost the right to privacy when you started lying to me every single day." She was crying harder now, hands shaking. "Please, please just listen. I love you. I do. I never stopped loving you. This thing with Evan, it was physical. It didn't mean anything emotionally." "That doesn't make it better." I know it doesn't. But we can work through this. Couples survive affairs all the time. We can go to counseling. I'll do whatever you want. I'll never see Evan again. You're right about that last part. I'll quit my job if I have to. I'll be completely transparent. You can check my phone, my email, anything. Just please don't give up on us." I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman I'd been married to for 15 years. This woman who'd promised to love and honor me. This woman who'd stood in a window yesterday with another man's arm around her waist, smiling like she'd finally found happiness. "It's too late," I said quietly. No, it's not. Daniel, we have history together. We have a life. You can't just throw that away because of one mistake. It wasn't one mistake. It was hundreds of mistakes. Every time you lied to me, every time you met him, every text, every call, every weekend you spent with him instead of me. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern of choices. But I can change. I want to change. You had 3 months to change. You didn't. She grabbed my arm, desperate now. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? Tell me, and I'll do it. I pulled my arm free, gently but firmly. I want you to pack your things and leave. The words hung in the air between us, final and irrevocable. Laura's face crumpled. You don't mean that. I do. This is my house too. You can't just kick me out. Fine, then I'll leave. Either way, we're not living together anymore. Daniel, please, I contacted a lawyer. I have a consultation tomorrow morning. You should probably do the same. She stared at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. A lawyer? You're serious about this? Completely. But we can fix this. We can... No, Laura, we can't, because fixing this would require you to have been honest with me from the start. It would require you to have respected me enough not to cheat, and you didn't do either of those things. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Then you shouldn't have done it. She collapsed onto the couch, face in her hands, shoulders shaking. Part of me, a very small part that still remembered who we used to be, wanted to comfort her, wanted to sit beside her and tell her it would be okay, but it wouldn't be okay, and she'd chosen this path herself. I'll stay with Tom tonight, I said. Tomorrow I'll come back and get some clothes. We can figure out the logistics of who stays in the house and who leaves after we've both talked to lawyers. Don't go, she whispered. Please don't leave me alone right now. You left me alone every time you chose to be with him. I walked to the stairs, headed up to the bedroom. I needed to grab some essentials, clothes, toiletries, my laptop. Behind me, I could hear Laura still crying on the couch. The bedroom looked the same as it always did. Our bed, perfectly made, our closets side by side, our nightstands, matching lamps casting warm light. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started packing. Jeans, shirts, underwear, the mundane necessities of leaving your life behind. Laura appeared in the doorway. I'll never forgive myself for this. I didn't respond, just kept packing. I destroyed the best thing I ever had. I know that now. I zipped up the bag. Please say something. Yell at me. Tell me you hate me. Just don't shut me out like this. I picked up the bag and faced her. I don't hate you, Laura. I'm just done. That's worse, she whispered. Hate I could work with. But done? Done is final. Yes, it is. I walked past her, down the stairs, toward the front door. She followed, still pleading, still crying, still trying to find some combination of words that would change my mind. There wasn't one. I opened the door, stepped out into the cool evening air. I love you, Laura said from the doorway. I know you don't believe me, but I do. I love you. I looked back at her one last time. You don't destroy what you love. Then I got in my car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the lit doorway, one hand raised like she was trying to pull me back, just like yesterday at the country house, always trying to pull me back after she'd pushed me away. But this time, I wasn't coming back. I drove to Tom's apartment in silence. No music, no phone calls, just the sound of the engine and the road and my own breathing. When I knocked on his door, he opened it immediately, took one look at my face and nodded. Rough? Yeah. You do what you needed to do? Yeah. Come on, I've got beer and leftover pizza. I followed him inside, dropped my bag by the couch, accepted the beer he handed me. We sat in silence again, but this time it felt different. Not like waiting, more like breathing. Like the first breath after being underwater too long. My phone buzzed, a text from Laura. I'll always love you, even if you never forgive me. I turned off my phone. You okay? Tom asked. I thought about it. Tried to assess how I actually felt beneath all the shock and adrenaline. Ask me again in a week, I said. Fair enough. We drank our beers and ate cold pizza and watched something mindless on television. Normal things, routine things, the kind of things that remind you the world keeps turning even when your personal world has stopped. Around midnight, Tom set up the couch for me with blankets and a pillow, Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Thanks for everything. That's what friends are for. He went to his bedroom. I lay down on the couch, staring at the ceiling in the darkness. Tomorrow I'd meet with a lawyer and start the formal process of ending my marriage. Tomorrow I'd have to start figuring out how to rebuild a life that had been completely dismantled. Tomorrow everything would become real in a way it wasn't quite yet. But tonight I just lay there in the darkness of Tom's apartment, feeling nothing and everything, and waited for sleep that was a long time coming. When it finally came, I dreamed of empty houses and locked doors and roads that led nowhere. I woke up at 7 a.m. to the smell of coffee. Tom was already up, dressed for work, moving quietly around his small kitchen. He saw me sit up and handed me a mug. Morning, how'd you sleep? Barely. Yeah, I figured. Listen, I've got to head to the office, but you can stay here as long as you need. There's food in the fridge. Keys are on the counter if you need to go out. I've got the lawyer meeting at 9. Right. Good luck with that. Call me after? Will do. He grabbed his bag and headed out, leaving me alone in his apartment with my coffee and my thoughts. I showered, dressed in the clothes I'd packed. Business casual, the armor of a man who needed to look put together even when falling apart inside. Then I drove to the law offices of Harrison and Associates. The building was downtown, all glass and steel, the kind of place that charged by the quarter hour and made sure you knew it. I took the elevator to the 7th floor and checked in with the receptionist. Mr. Cross, Ms. Harrison will see you now. Patricia Harrison was in her mid-50s, wearing a charcoal suit and an expression that suggested she'd seen every variation of human betrayal and wasn't impressed by any of it. She shook my hand with a firm grip and gestured to the chair across from her desk. Thank you for seeing me on short notice, I said. Of course. Your email indicated photographic evidence of an affair. Do you have those with you? I pulled out my phone, opened the folder, and handed it to her. She scrolled through the images methodically, her expression neutral and professional. These are clear, she said. Taken where? A country house in Woodbridge, owned by my wife's firm. And the man in the photos is? Evan Hale, my wife's business partner, also married with 3 kids. Does his wife know? Yes. I told her Saturday morning. She came with me to the house, brought her children. They all witnessed the affair firsthand. Patricia's eyebrow raised slightly, the first crack in her professional facade. That was bold. It felt necessary. It was also smart. Multiple witnesses strengthen your case significantly. She handed back my phone. All right, Mr. Cross. Let's talk about what you want from this divorce. I want it done quickly and cleanly. I don't care about the house. She can have it. I don't care about most of the assets. I just want out. That's admirable, but not strategic. California is a community property state. You're entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage. Don't give that up out of anger or hurt. I'm not angry. I'm just tired. Then be tired and protect yourself. Your wife had an affair. That doesn't mean you should walk away with nothing. She pulled out a legal pad and started making notes. How long have you been married? 15 years. Children? No. Property? The house, 2 cars, some investments. Nothing complicated. Retirement accounts? Both of us have 401ks through our employers. Good. Those will be divided. Now tell me about her income. She's a managing partner at Thornton and Associates. Makes about $300,000 a year. Patricia's pen paused. And you? Operations manager, about $90,000. So she significantly out-earns you. That works in your favor for spousal support. I hadn't even thought about that. I don't want her money. Mr. Cross, I understand you're hurt, but this is business. If the roles were reversed, she'd absolutely be pursuing spousal support from you. Don't let pride cost you financial security. She had a point. A cold, calculating point, but a point nonetheless. How long does this process take? I asked. In California, minimum 6 months from the date of filing. Could be longer if there are disputes over assets or if she contests the divorce. She won't. She wants to salvage things, but she won't fight the divorce itself. Don't be so sure. People say a lot of things in the immediate aftermath. Once lawyers get involved, positions change. Patricia leaned back in her chair. Here's what I recommend. We file immediately. We request temporary separation of finances. We document everything. Her affair, her income, the marital assets. And we prepare for negotiation, because that's what this will become. What about the photos? Do those matter legally? California is a no-fault divorce state, so the affair itself doesn't impact the legal proceedings. But it impacts negotiation. If she wants to avoid public embarrassment, if she wants to protect her career, she'll be more willing to agree to favorable terms. That feels like blackmail. It's leverage, and leverage is what you need right now. I thought about that, about using Laura's affair as a bargaining chip. It felt wrong, manipulative, petty, but then I thought about her standing in that window with Evan, about her lying to me for months, about her only showing remorse after getting caught. "All right," I said, "let's do it." Patricia smiled, a thin, professional smile that suggested she'd just added another victory to her scoreboard. "Excellent. I'll draw up the papers today. You can review and sign tomorrow. We'll serve her by end of week." "That fast?" "That fast. The sooner we file, the sooner the clock starts on those 6 months, and the sooner you can move forward with your life." We spent the next hour going through details: bank accounts, property titles, insurance policies, all the mundane infrastructure of a shared life that would now have to be divided and separated. By the time I left her office, my head was spinning with information, and my stomach was churning with the reality of what I'd just set in motion. This was really happening. I was really getting divorced. I sat in my car in the parking garage and called Tom. "It's done. Lawyer's drawing up the papers." "How do you feel?" "Like I just signed away 15 years of my life." "You didn't sign it away." She threw it away. "You're just making it official." "I know. Doesn't make it easier." "No, but it makes it necessary." He paused. "You want to grab lunch? Talk through it?" "Actually, I think I need to be alone for a bit, clear my head." "All right, but seriously, call me if you need anything." "I will. Thanks, Tom." I hung up and sat there in the concrete dimness of the parking garage, listening to the echo of car engines and voices and footsteps, life continuing all around me while mine was being dismantled piece by piece. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Cross, this is Megan Hale. I wanted to thank you again for Saturday, and to let you know I filed for divorce this morning. My lawyer said your photos will be very helpful. I hope your situation resolves as well as mine is starting to." I stared at the message. Megan had moved fast, filed already. She wasn't wasting time or giving Evan room to manipulate the situation. I texted back, "Thank you for letting me know. I filed today as well. I hope you and your kids are doing okay." Her response came quickly. "We're surviving. That's all we can do right now. Good luck with everything." 2 marriages ending on the same day because of the same affair. There was a symmetry to it that felt almost poetic. Almost. I started my car and drove aimlessly for a while, no destination in mind. I ended up at a park near the river, one of those places with walking trails and benches and people jogging or walking dogs. Normal people doing normal things on a normal Monday morning. I found an empty bench and sat down. Watched the river flow past, steady and indifferent. Watched a woman throw a ball for her golden retriever, the dog bounding after it with pure, uncomplicated joy. Watched an elderly couple walk hand in hand, slow and careful, still together after what had to be decades. How did people make it? How did marriages survive when half of them ended in divorce? What made some couples last while others imploded? I didn't have answers, just questions that spiraled into more questions. My phone rang. Laura. I stared at her name on the screen for a long time. Then I answered. "Daniel," she said, her voice thick with tears. "Thank God. I've been trying to reach you all morning." "I know." "Where are you? Are you at Tom's?" "Doesn't matter where I am." "Please come home. We need to talk more." I've been thinking, and I have a plan. We can rebuild trust. We can make this work. Laura, just hear me out. Please. I'll quit my job. I'll cut all contact with Evan. I'll do everything transparently. You can have access to all my accounts, my phone, everything. I'll prove to you that I can change. It's too late for that. No, it's not. Daniel, people work through affairs. It happens all the time. We can be one of the couples who makes it. I don't want to be one of those couples. Why not? Why won't you even try? I watched the river, searching for the right words. Because I don't trust you anymore, and I don't think I ever will again. Trust can be rebuilt. Not when it's been broken this badly. Laura, every time you'd be late coming home, I'd wonder if you were really at work or with someone else. Every time your phone buzzed, I'd wonder who was texting you. Every time you said you loved me, I'd wonder if you meant it or if you were just saying what you thought I wanted to hear. That's not fair. Fair? The word came out sharper than I intended. You're talking to me about fair? After you spent 3 months lying to me? After you spent weekends with another man while I sat at home believing your excuses? I know I messed up, but you're not even giving me a chance to fix it. I gave you 15 years. That was your chance. You used it to cheat on me. She was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder, more desperate. Is this about revenge? Are you doing this to hurt me back? No. I'm doing this because I deserve better than someone who treats me like an afterthought. You weren't an afterthought. You were my husband. You still are. On paper. Not in any way that matters. Another pause. Then, fine. If you want a divorce, we'll get divorced. But I'm not making it easy for you. There it was. The shift Tom had warned me about, from pleading to threatening. I'm not asking you to make it easy, I said. I'm just asking you to let it happen. Why should I? You humiliated me in front of Evan. You brought his wife and kids to that house. You destroyed his marriage along with ours. Did you stop to think about the consequences of that? I thought about the consequences of your affair. That's different. How? Because what I did was private. What you did was public and cruel. I almost laughed. You think affairs are private. You think lying to your spouse for months while sleeping with someone else is a victimless crime. I'm not saying I'm the victim. I'm saying you made a choice to expose everything in the worst way possible. That was vindictive. Maybe, but it was also honest, something you haven't been in a very long time. I'm hanging up now, and Daniel, you're going to regret this. I'll make sure you do. She ended the call before I could respond. I sat there staring at my phone, at the blank screen, at the ghost of her threat still hanging in the air. She'd fight. I knew she would. People like Laura didn't accept defeat gracefully. They fought tooth and nail for every inch of ground, even when they knew they were wrong. This was going to get ugly. I called Patricia Harrison. She answered on the second ring. Mr. Cross, what can I do for you? My wife just called. She's going to fight the divorce. Said I'll regret it. Empty threat or real concern? With Laura? Hard to tell, but she's not the type to go quietly. Then we prepare for battle. Don't worry, Mr. Cross. I've handled far worse than a scorned spouse. We'll protect you. What do I need to do? Document everything. Every call, every text, every interaction. If she threatens you, screenshot it. If she shows up at your location, note the time and date. Build a record. You think she'll actually harass me? I think angry people do unpredictable things. Better to be prepared. We talked for a few more minutes about strategy and next steps. By the time I hung up, I felt slightly more grounded. I had a lawyer, I had a plan, I had documentation, I had everything I needed except peace of mind. That, apparently, would take longer. I spent the rest of the day driving around aimlessly, not ready to go back to Tom's apartment and sit alone with my thoughts. I stopped at a coffee shop and sat in the corner nursing a latte while people around me worked on laptops and chatted with friends and lived their uncomplicated lives. Around 5 p.m., my phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Cross, this is Evan Hale. I sat up straighter. What do you want? I want to talk. Just talk. No lawyers, no anger. Just two men having a conversation about a situation that's gotten out of hand. Out of hand, I repeated slowly. That's what you call sleeping with my wife? That's not what I meant. Look, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But what you did on Saturday, bringing Megan and my kids there, that was over the line. You're lecturing me about lines? I'm asking you to think about the children, my children. They didn't deserve to see what they saw. You're right, they didn't. So why did you put yourself in a position where they could? He was quiet for a moment. I made mistakes. I know that. But you deliberately traumatized 3 innocent kids to get back at me. I didn't deliberately do anything. Your wife made the choice to bring them. I just gave her the information she deserved to have. Because you wanted revenge? Because she deserved to know the truth. Well, congratulations. You got your revenge. My marriage is over. My kids hate me. My wife is taking everything. Are you happy now? Are you seriously trying to make me feel guilty for your consequences? I'm trying to make you understand that what you did had a domino effect. It didn't just hurt Laura and me. It hurt my family, my kids. Your affair hurt your kids, Evan, not me. You're the one who chose to risk everything for some excitement with someone else's wife. Own that. I do own it. But I'm asking you, man to man, to not make this worse than it already is. Don't drag this out. Don't use those photos publicly. Don't destroy my career along with my marriage. Why would I do you any favors? Because you're better than that. Because you know what it's like to hurt, and you don't want to cause unnecessary pain. I thought about that. About whether I was better than that. About whether adding professional destruction to personal destruction would make me feel any better. The answer was complicated. Here's what I'll tell you, I said. I have no interest in your career. I don't care about your job or your reputation at the firm. I care about my divorce and making sure my wife can't manipulate her way out of the consequences. So if you stay out of my way, I'll stay out of yours. That's fair. But if you try to help Laura fight this divorce, if you try to support her or give her ammunition against me, then all bets are off. Those photos go public, your firm sees them, your clients see them, everyone knows what you did. You'd really do that? Try me. Silence on the other end. Then, understood. I'll stay out of it. Good. And Evan? For what it's worth, you and Laura deserve each other. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking slightly. Adrenaline again. The conversation had felt like a negotiation, a power play. Two men circling each other, trying to figure out who had more leverage. I'd won this round, but at what cost? I drove back to Tom's apartment as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Beautiful, indifferent. The world kept being beautiful even when your life was falling apart. Tom was already home when I walked in, sitting on his couch with takeout Chinese food spread across the coffee table. Figured you'd be hungry, he said. Hope you like lo mein. I sat down beside him and grabbed a container. Thanks. Long day. Want to talk about it? I told him about the lawyer meeting, about Laura's call, about Evan's call, all of it spilling out over cheap Chinese food and beer. When I finished, Tom was quiet for a moment. Then, you handled it well, better than I would have. I threatened to destroy his career. Only if he messes with you first. That's not a threat. That's boundary setting. Feels like a threat. It is, but it's also self-defense. These people hurt you, Dan. They don't get to walk away without consequences just because those consequences make them uncomfortable. He was right. I knew he was right. But it still felt like I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. Someone harder, colder, more calculated. Is this who I am now? I asked. The guy who takes revenge, who threatens people, who brings kids to witness their father's affair? No, you're the guy who got pushed too far and pushed back. There's a difference. Sometimes I'm not sure there is. Tom grabbed another beer from his fridge, handed it to me. Look, I'm not going to tell you this doesn't change you. It does. Getting betrayed changes everyone. But you get to choose whether it makes you bitter or makes you stronger. Right now, you're just surviving. That's enough. We ate in silence for a while, the television playing something neither of us was watching. I keep thinking about those kids, I said finally. Evan's kids. The way they looked when they saw their father in that bed. That's going to stay with them forever. Yeah, Tom said quietly. It probably will, but that's on their father, not on you. I still feel responsible. That means you're human. But don't let guilt eat you alive. You didn't create this situation. You just exposed it. He was right again. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally were two different things. I finished my beer and stood up. I'm going to try to sleep. Got to figure out next steps tomorrow. You're welcome to stay here as long as you need. I mean it. Thanks, Tom. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd figure it out. You always do. I went to the couch, my temporary bed, and lay down, stared at the ceiling, thought about everything and nothing. Sleep came eventually, bringing dreams of locked doors and empty rooms and voices calling my name from places I couldn't reach. I woke up Tuesday morning to my phone ringing. Patricia Harrison. Mr. Cross, I have an update. Laura's been served. I sat up, instantly awake. Already? I had a process server deliver the papers last night. She was at your house, signed for them at 8:47 p.m. How did she react? According to the server, she was calm but visibly upset. No drama, just acceptance of the documents. What happens now? She has 30 days to respond. Most likely she'll hire a lawyer, if she hasn't already, and will begin negotiations. Are you prepared for that? As prepared as I can be? Good. I'll keep you updated on any developments. In the meantime, avoid direct contact with her. All communication should go through me. We hung up. I sat there on Tom's couch, holding my phone, processing the fact that it was now officially in motion. The divorce papers were served. The process had begun. There was no going back. My phone buzzed immediately. A text from Laura. I can't believe you actually did this. After everything we've been through, you're really throwing us away. I didn't respond. Patricia had said no direct contact. Another text. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. Then another. This is your last chance. Call me and we can stop this before it's too late. I turned off my phone and went to shower. When I came out, Tom was making coffee. You okay? You look rough. Laura got served last night. And? And she's texting me, trying to get me to call her off. You're not going to, right? No, I'm not. Good. He poured me coffee. What's your plan for today? I need to go back to the house, get more clothes, some personal items. Patricia said Laura might try to lock me out or change the locks, so I should grab what I need while I still can. You want me to come with you, in case she's there? I considered it. Having backup might be smart. Then again, this was something I needed to face alone. No, but thank you. I drank my coffee, ate some toast Tom made, and tried to mentally prepare for going back to the house, back to the place that used to be home and now just felt like a crime scene. I drove there mid-morning, hoping Laura would be at work, but her car was in the driveway. Of course it was. I parked on the street and sat there for a moment, gathering courage. Then I walked up to the front door and used my key. Laura was sitting on the living room couch, still in pajamas, divorce papers spread out on the coffee table in front of her. She looked up when I entered, her face blotchy from crying. You came, she said quietly. I need to get some things. You couldn't call first. You just show up? It's my house, too. I don't need permission. Right. Your house, that you're trying to take from me in this divorce. I'm not trying to take anything. My lawyer is handling the property division fairly. Fairly, she repeated bitterly. You call this fair? You humiliate me, destroy my relationship with Evan, and then sue me for divorce? I didn't destroy your relationship with Evan. You did that yourself by having one in the first place. She stood up, anger flashing across her face. You're so self-righteous, so perfect. Like you never made any mistakes in our marriage. I never cheated. No, but you were absent. Emotionally absent. For years, Daniel. You just went through the motions. Work, home, dinner, television, sleep. Over and over. No passion, no excitement, no real connection. So you cheated because I was boring? I'm saying our marriage had problems long before Evan. Then you should have talked to me about those problems, not solved them by getting into bed with your coworker. I tried to talk to you. You never listened. When? When did you try? She faltered, searching for a specific memory and coming up empty. It wasn't one conversation. It was 1,000 small moments where I tried to connect, and you were just distant. That's convenient. Blame me for not noticing you wanted attention, so you're justified in cheating. I'm not saying I was justified. I'm saying it wasn't just my fault. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized we'd probably been having the same argument in different forms for years, talking past each other instead of to each other. Both convinced we were right and the other was wrong. You know what? Maybe you're right, I said. Maybe our marriage had problems before the affair. But the affair is what ended it, not the problems. Your choice to cheat instead of working through those problems. So that's it? 15 years and you're just walking away? You walked away first. I'm just making it official. She sank back onto the couch, defeated. I don't know how to do this. How to be alone after 15 years. You'll figure it out. People do. Will you? The question caught me off guard. What? Will you figure it out? Or are you going to be angry and bitter forever? I thought about that. About who I'd become over the past few days. The man who'd brought Evan's kids to witness their father's affair. The man who'd threatened to destroy careers. The man who felt more comfortable with cold calculation than messy emotions. I don't know, I said honestly. Ask me in a year. I went upstairs and packed more clothes, more personal items. Photos from before the marriage went wrong, books I'd bought but never read. Small things that marked the territory of a life I'd lived. When I came back downstairs with 2 more bags, Laura was still sitting on the couch. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what it's worth. I really am sorry. Me too. Do you think we'll ever be able to talk, like friends, after all this settles? I don't know. I'd like that, someday, to not hate each other. I don't hate you, Laura. I'm just disappointed. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face again. That's worse? Maybe it was. Hate could be fought against, argued with, transformed into something else. But disappointment just sat there, heavy and immovable, a final verdict on something that had failed. I walked to the door with my bags. Daniel, she called, I really did love you. Maybe not at the end, but in the beginning? I really did. I know, I loved you too. Then I left. This time, I didn't look back. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal documents, phone calls with Patricia, and long hours at Tom's apartment trying to figure out what my life was supposed to look like now. Laura hired a lawyer, Martin Caldwell, known for being aggressive in divorce proceedings. Patricia seemed pleased about this, said it meant Laura was taking the fight seriously, which meant we needed to be prepared. She's asking for spousal support, Patricia told me during one of our phone calls. Not just temporary, permanent. On what grounds? She makes more than twice what I make. Her lawyer's arguing that you're entitled to maintain the lifestyle you became accustomed to during the marriage. It's actually working in our favor. If she's arguing you deserve support because of the marital lifestyle, then we can argue the same in reverse. I don't want her money. Mr. Cross, we've been over this. Pride is expensive. Let me handle the strategy. She was right. I knew she was right. But it still felt wrong to take money from someone I just wanted to be free of. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into logistics planning, shipment coordination, crisis management. My boss noticed the extra hours and the increased productivity. Daniel, you okay? He asked one afternoon, stopping by my desk. You've been here until 8 every night this week. Just trying to stay busy. I heard about your situation. I'm sorry. If you need time off, I don't. Work helps. He nodded, understanding. All right. But if that changes, let me know. It was strange how people knew, how word had spread through our social circle that Laura and I were divorcing. Some people reached out with awkward condolences. Others just avoided me entirely, unsure what to say. I preferred the latter. Tom remained my constant. He'd come home from his own job and we'd sit together, sometimes talking, sometimes just existing in the same space. He never judged, never told me I was handling things wrong, just was there. You need to start thinking about long term, he said one evening. You can't live on my couch forever. I know. I'm not kicking you out. I'm just saying you need a plan. I've been looking at apartments. Nothing feels right yet. Because you're looking for home. You're not going to find that right away. He was right again. I was looking for something that felt permanent, stable, safe. But stability was a luxury I couldn't afford yet. I'll figure it out, I said. I know you will. 3 weeks after serving Laura, I got a call from Patricia. We need to meet, in person. Why? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. But Laura's lawyer sent over a settlement proposal. We need to discuss it. I met her at her office the next day. She had the proposal laid out on her desk. 30 pages of legal language that outlined how our lives would be divided. The house goes to her, Patricia summarized. She keeps her 401k, you keep yours. Cars split, she gets the Audi, you get the Honda. Savings account divided 50-50, and she's dropping the request for permanent spousal support. That seems reasonable. Almost too reasonable. My guess is she wants this done quickly, probably trying to minimize scandal, protect her reputation at the firm. Should I sign it? That depends. Are you satisfied with these terms? Because once you sign, there's no renegotiating. I looked at the papers. At the clinical summary of 15 years reduced to assets and liabilities. It felt surreal. I'm satisfied. Then I'll draft a response. We'll have this finalized within a month. A month. 30 days until I was officially no longer married. It felt simultaneously too long and too fast. I left Patricia's office and drove to the apartment I'd finally decided to rent. 1 bedroom, 7th floor, overlooking the city, empty except for potential. I'd signed the lease yesterday. I'd move in this weekend. It was time to stop living in limbo. Tom helped me move on Saturday. There wasn't much to move. Clothes, books, my laptop, a few kitchen items I'd picked up. Everything else I'd left behind in the house, deciding that starting fresh meant actually starting fresh, not dragging pieces of my old life into the new one. This is nice, Tom said, looking around the empty apartment. Good view. Yeah. You going to be okay here, alone? I think so. I need to learn how to be alone again. You're not alone. You know that, right? You've got people who care about you. I know. But I still need to learn how to exist by myself, without defining myself by a relationship. Tom clapped me on the shoulder. That's healthy thinking. I'm proud of you. We ordered pizza and sat on the floor of my new living room, eating directly from the box because I didn't have furniture yet. You hear anything from Laura? Tom asked. Not directly. Everything goes through the lawyers now. Patricia said she's staying at a hotel, hasn't moved back to the house. She's probably afraid you'll show up. I won't. I'm done with that house. Done with that life. Good. You deserve better than what she gave you. I wasn't sure I believed that yet, but I appreciated him saying it. We finished the pizza, and Tom left around 10. I stood in my empty apartment, listening to the silence. It was different from the silence at Tom's place. This was my silence, my space, my chance to rebuild. I thought about Laura, wherever she was, probably in some hotel room having the same existential crisis. Or maybe not. Maybe she was already moving forward, already forgetting me, already planning her next steps with or without Evan Hale. It didn't matter anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Megan Hale. "How are you holding up? My divorce finalized yesterday. Thought you might want to know there's light at the end of the tunnel," I texted back. "Congratulations, I think. Mine should be done in a month. How are the kids?" "Day by day. Therapy helps. They're angry at their father, which breaks my heart, but at least they know the truth now. I'm sorry they had to see what they saw. Don't be. You gave me the information I needed. What I did with it was my choice. No regrets?" We texted back and forth for a few more minutes, two people who'd been thrown together by betrayal, finding comfort in shared experience. Finally, she wrote, "Good luck with your final month. Feel free to reach out if you need someone who understands. Same to you. Thank you." I set down my phone and looked around my empty apartment again. Tomorrow I'd buy furniture, next week I'd buy groceries and kitchen supplies and all the mundane necessities of living alone. I'd learn to cook for one instead of two. I'd learn to fall asleep without another person breathing beside me. I'd learn to exist in the space between who I used to be and who I was becoming. It would take time, but time was something I had now. I slept on an air mattress that first night, staring up at an unfamiliar ceiling in an unfamiliar room, listening to unfamiliar city sounds filtering through the windows. It wasn't comfortable, it wasn't home, but it was mine. And for now, that was enough. The next few weeks fell into a new routine. I'd wake up early, go to the gym, a habit I'd neglected during my marriage, but now embraced as a way to channel energy and frustration. Then work, where I continued to excel at my job, maybe too much, using professional success as a substitute for personal happiness. Evenings were harder. The empty apartment felt especially empty when I came home to it. I'd make dinner for one, eat while watching television, then try to read or work on hobbies I'd abandoned years ago. Sometimes I'd call Tom and we'd grab drinks or just hang out. Sometimes I'd text Megan and we'd commiserate about the surreal experience of rebuilding lives after betrayal. I didn't date, wasn't even remotely interested. The thought of trusting someone new felt impossible. Laura and I didn't speak directly. Everything went through lawyers. Adjustments to the settlement, questions about asset division, coordination for the final hearing. Patricia kept me updated. She's cooperating. Still seems eager to get this done quickly. Any word on what happened with Evan? From what I understand, they're not together anymore. He's been suspended from the firm pending an ethics review. His divorce is proceeding. Seems like both affairs collapsed under scrutiny. Good. Let them both face consequences. 4 weeks after I moved into my apartment, Patricia called with news. The judge signed off. Your divorce is final. Congratulations, Mr. Cross. You're officially single. I sat in my office chair, phone pressed to my ear, trying to process what that meant. Final. Over. Done. Mr. Cross, you still there? Yeah, sorry, just taking it in. I know it's overwhelming. Take the day to process. I'll send over the final paperwork this afternoon. We hung up. I sat there staring at my computer screen, not really seeing it. I was divorced. 15 years of marriage, ended with a judge's signature. I felt nothing, or everything, or some combination that didn't have a name yet. I left work early, went back to my apartment, and just sat on my couch, bought 2 weeks ago, still smelling like the furniture store, and stared at the wall. My phone buzzed. A text from Tom. Hey, heard the news from Patricia. You okay? Define okay. Want company? Not tonight. I need to sit with this alone. Understood, but call if you change your mind. I didn't call. Instead, I sat there as the sun set, as the room grew dark, as the city lights came on outside my windows. I thought about everything that had led to this moment, the discovery, the confrontation, the legal proceedings, the slow dissolution of a life I'd thought was permanent, and underneath all of it, the simple, devastating fact that someone I'd loved had chosen to betray me, and I'd chosen to walk away rather than try to rebuild something broken. Had that been the right choice? Would I regret it later? I didn't know, but I knew I couldn't have stayed. Couldn't have spent the rest of my life wondering, questioning, doubting every late night and every business trip and every smile that might be hiding another lie. So I'd chosen freedom over security, uncertainty over false comfort. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. Laura. I stared at her name, debating whether to answer. Then, against my better judgment, I did. Hello? Daniel. Her voice was soft, tentative. I know we're not supposed to talk directly, but I wanted to say something. What? I got the final papers today. It's really over. Yes. I keep thinking about how we got here, how we went from getting married and being happy to this. I didn't respond, just listened. I know you blame me, and you should. I made the choice that destroyed us, but I want you to know that I do take responsibility for that. I'm not trying to make excuses anymore. Okay. And I want you to know that despite everything, I hope you find happiness, real happiness, the kind we used to have before we forgot how to see each other. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know that I'm sorry, not just for the affair, for all of it, for checking out of our marriage long before I checked out physically, for not fighting to save us before it was too late. I listened to her breathing on the other end of the line, this woman I'd shared so much of my life with, now just a voice on a phone. I forgive you, I said, surprising myself. You do? Not because you deserve it, but because I need to. I can't carry anger around forever. It's too heavy. She was quiet for a long moment. Thank you. That means more than you know. Are you okay? Really? I don't know. Some days I am, some days I'm not. I'm in therapy, trying to figure out who I am without defining myself by my career or my relationships. That's good. That's healthy. What about you? Same, taking it day by day. Do you think we'll ever be friends again? Years from now, maybe? I considered that. Maybe, but not anytime soon. That's fair. She paused. I should let you go. I just wanted to hear your voice one more time. As my ex-husband instead of my husband, if that makes sense. It does. Goodbye, Daniel. I really do hope you find what you're looking for. You too, Laura. We hung up. I sat there holding my phone, processing the strange, bittersweet sadness of that conversation. It felt like the real ending, more final than any legal document. We were strangers now. Two people who used to love each other, who'd built a life together and watched it fall apart, who'd hurt each other in ways that couldn't be undone. But at least we'd acknowledged it. At least we'd said goodbye properly. I set down my phone and looked out at the city lights, at the life happening out there beyond my window. Tomorrow I'd start figuring out what came next, what a life without Laura looked like, what happiness meant when you had to build it from scratch instead of sharing it with someone else. But tonight, I just sat in my empty apartment and let myself feel everything I'd been holding back for weeks. The grief, the anger, the relief, the fear, the hope. All of it washing over me like waves, painful and cleansing and necessary. This was rock bottom. The only direction from here was up, but I wasn't done. The divorce was final. Laura and I were legally separated, our lives divided, our marriage officially over in the eyes of the law. But Evan Hale still had his career, still had his partnership at Thornton & Associates, still walked around like his affair had been nothing more than an unfortunate mistake that time would heal, and Laura, despite losing the marriage, still had her position at the firm, still had her professional reputation mostly intact, still faced no real consequences beyond the personal ones. That bothered me. It bothered me more than I wanted to admit. I'd handled the divorce with remarkable restraint, Patricia had said. Hadn't used the photos to humiliate Laura publicly. Hadn't destroyed her professionally. Hadn't even fought for more than my fair share of assets. I'd been civilized, mature, the bigger person, and it had gotten me exactly nothing except a quiet divorce and an empty apartment. Meanwhile, Evan Hale had been suspended pending an ethics review, but rumor had it the firm was planning to reinstate him after a token punishment. A few months away, maybe some additional oversight, then back to business as usual, because partners protected partners. And Laura? She'd taken some vacation time immediately after the divorce, but she'd be back at work soon, sliding right back into her role like nothing had happened, no real consequences, no real accountability, just moving forward. That thought consumed me in the days following the finalized divorce. I'd lie in bed at night thinking about how unfair it was, how they'd both betrayed their spouses, destroyed families, traumatized children, and yet they'd both land on their feet professionally. Tom noticed my mood shifting. "You're brooding," he said one evening when I came over for dinner. "More than usual. Just thinking." About? About how Evan and Laura are both going to walk away from this basically fine. Tom set down his beer and looked at me seriously. "Dan, you need to let it go. The divorce is done. You got what you wanted. Freedom. Don't ruin that by obsessing over revenge." "I'm not obsessing." "You are. I can see it. This look you get when you think no one's watching, you're planning something." "Was I?" "Maybe. I'd been thinking about Thornton & Associates. about their operations, about vulnerabilities. Because my job as an operations manager had taught me one thing very well. Every company has weaknesses, points of failure, critical infrastructure that, if disrupted, could bring everything crashing down. I'm not planning anything, I lied. Good, because whatever you're thinking, it's not worth it. You've moved on. They're moving on. That's how this works. What if I don't want them to move on? What if I want them to actually face consequences? That's not your job. That's karma's job. Karma's slow. And revenge is fast but permanent. Once you do something, you can't undo it. I knew he was right. The rational part of my brain knew he was absolutely right. But the irrational part, the part that had been hurt and humiliated and betrayed, that part wanted to see them suffer like I'd suffered. That part wanted justice, not healing. I'll think about it, I said. Tom didn't look convinced. Just be careful. You've rebuilt your life pretty well. Don't throw that away because you're angry. I promised him I wouldn't, but the thoughts kept coming. I knew things about Thornton and Associates. Laura had talked about work constantly during our marriage, complaining about systems and procedures and the firm's critical dependencies. She'd mentioned their primary data warehouse, a facility in an industrial park 20 minutes outside the city where they stored physical records and backup servers. She'd complained about the outdated security system, the minimal overnight staffing, the fact that the firm was too cheap to upgrade their fire suppression system despite recommendations. I'd listened to all of it without really caring because it was just work talk, just Laura venting about her day. But now those details came back to me with crystal clarity. A minimally secured warehouse, containing critical firm data, with known vulnerabilities. What if something happened to that warehouse? What if there was an incident? I spent 3 evenings researching satellite images, property records, security company information, building permits, fire code violations that had been logged and never addressed. I wasn't planning anything. I was just looking, understanding, assessing. On the 4th evening, Tom showed up at my apartment unannounced. "We need to talk," he said, walking past me into the living room. "About what?" "About whatever you're planning, and don't lie to me. I know you, Dan. I know that look." I closed the door and followed him. "I'm not planning anything." "Then why did you search for Thornton Associates warehouse on your laptop? Which, by the way, you left open when I stopped by yesterday to drop off that book you wanted." I felt my face flush. "I was just curious." "Curious. Right." Tom crossed his arms. "Let me be very clear. Whatever you're thinking about doing to that warehouse, don't. Don't. Because I know you're angry. I know you feel like they got away with something. But Dan, if you do something illegal, something destructive, you'll destroy your own life trying to hurt theirs. Is that really worth it? Maybe. No, it's not. You've got a good job, a nice apartment, your whole life ahead of you. Don't throw that away for revenge that won't even make you feel better." "How do you know it won't make me feel better?" "Because I've been where you are. After my divorce, I wanted to hurt her. Wanted to make her suffer like she'd made me suffer. You know what stopped me? Imagining my life if I got caught. Imagining spending years in prison because I let anger control me. Was that worth it? No." He was right. Of course he was right. But something in me resisted that logic. Something wanted to see Thornton and Associates burn, metaphorically or literally, as payment for what Laura and Evan had done. "I hear you," I said carefully. "That's not the same as promising you'll stop." "I need time to think." "No, you need to promise me right now that you won't do anything stupid." I looked at my friend, my loyal, patient, protective friend who'd been there through everything, who'd given me a place to stay when I had nowhere else to go, who'd listened to me without judgment and pulled me back from the edge repeatedly. I owed him honesty, at least. "I can't promise that." Tom's face fell. "Dan, I'm sorry. But I can't lie to you and say I'm going to let this go when I'm not sure I can." "Then I'm asking you, as your friend, to really think about this, about what you're risking, about who you'll become if you go through with whatever you're planning." "I will. I promise I'll think about it." "And if you decide to do it anyway?" "Then I won't tell you, so you'll have plausible deniability." Tom shook his head. "That's not friendship. Friendship is stopping you from making a mistake, not giving you cover while you make it. Then stop me." "I'm trying. I'm standing here telling you this is wrong and dangerous and pointless. What more do you want from me?" "I don't know. Maybe I want you to understand why I need to do this." "I do understand. You're hurt and angry, and you want them to pay. But revenge isn't payment. It's just more pain spreading in circles until everyone's drowning in it. We stood there in my living room, two friends on opposite sides of a moral line, neither willing to budge. Finally, Tom moved toward the door. I can't watch you destroy yourself, so I'm going to leave, and I'm going to hope that when I see you next, you've come to your senses. Tom, call me when you have, not before. He left. The door closing behind him sounded like punctuation on a friendship that might not survive what I was about to do. I stood alone in my apartment, the silence heavier than before. Tom was right. About all of it. Revenge was stupid and dangerous and would only hurt me more in the end. But I couldn't let it go. Something in me needed to see Thornton and Associates face consequences. Needed to know that actions had repercussions beyond just personal guilt and professional hand-slapping. I sat down at my laptop and pulled up the warehouse information again. The facility was about 20,000 square feet, mostly windowless concrete, built in the 80s when industrial parks were still thriving. It stored physical file archives, backup server equipment, and disaster recovery infrastructure. If something happened to that warehouse, fire, flood, structural damage, the firm would lose years of archived client data. They'd face lawsuits, regulatory fines, professional consequences that would actually matter. And yes, I knew it was wrong. I knew it was illegal. I knew it could destroy my life if I got caught. But I also knew I couldn't live with myself if I did nothing while they walked away unscathed, so I made a choice. Not right away, not that night. But over the next week, as I thought about it constantly, as I weighed consequences and morality and justice, I slowly came to the conclusion that I was going to do it. I was going to hit that warehouse. Not to cause physical harm, I'd never hurt anyone, but to cause operational chaos, financial pain, the professional consequences that matched personal ones. I spent another week planning, studying the warehouse schedule, understanding security patterns, figuring out access points and escape routes. I wasn't an expert. I was just an operations manager who understood systems and logistics and how things worked, and how they could be made to not work. On a Thursday night, 2 weeks after my conversation with Tom, I drove out to the industrial park alone. I parked 3 blocks away, wore dark clothes and gloves, brought bolt cutters I'd bought with cash from a hardware store 2 towns over. This was really happening. I was really doing this. Every step toward the warehouse felt surreal, like I was watching someone else move through the darkness. The industrial park was quiet, just a few overnight businesses with lights on, most of the buildings empty and dark. Thornton's warehouse sat at the back corner, away from the main road, exactly as minimally secured as Laura had described. Chain-link fence with a basic padlock. No cameras, no overnight security guard, just a monitoring service that did periodic drive-bys. I cut through the chain link in a spot that wouldn't be immediately visible from the road. Slipped through, approached the building from the back. There was a door, metal, with another basic lock. It took me longer than I wanted to admit to pick it. I'd watched YouTube videos, but actually doing it was harder, but eventually it gave way. I was inside. The warehouse was dark except for emergency exit lights casting red glows at intervals. Rows of metal shelving stretched away into shadows, filled with boxes and equipment and servers humming quietly to themselves. This was where Thornton and Associates kept their operational backbone. I moved through the aisles, looking for the specific things Laura had mentioned. The electrical panel, the sprinkler system controls, the main server rack. I found them in the back corner, behind a cage door that was, incredibly, unlocked. For a moment I stood there, looking at all the infrastructure that kept the firm running, all the data, all the client files, all the professional reputations stored in metal and silicon. I could end it all with a few correct actions. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't who I was. I could tell myself it was justice. I could call it revenge. I could frame it as consequences for actions. But really, it was just me being willing to commit serious crimes because I was hurt and angry. Tom was right. This wouldn't make me feel better. It would just make me a criminal. I stood there in the darkness of that warehouse, surrounded by the evidence of my own moral failure, and I felt something shift. Maybe revenge wasn't worth it after all. Maybe walking away really was the stronger choice. Maybe I needed to learn to live with injustice instead of becoming unjust myself, trying to correct it. I turned to leave, and that's when I heard the voice behind me. I had a feeling you'd show up here eventually. I spun around. Tom stood there, flashlight in hand, looking at me with a mixture of disappointment and understanding. How did you? I've known you for 20 years, Dan. I knew you were going to do this despite everything I said, so I've been watching the warehouse every night for the past week, waiting. Tom, I wasn't going to. Yes, you were. You came here with bolt cutters and gloves. You broke in. You were absolutely going to do something. I couldn't argue with that. I changed my mind. When? Just now? When you realized actually committing the crime felt different than planning it? Yes. That's good. That means you're not completely lost. He moved closer, keeping his voice low. But we need to leave, right now, before someone sees us or comes by on patrol. I need to fix the fence. Leave it. We'll take the bolt cutters with us. They can't trace them to you. We moved quickly, back through the warehouse, out the door I'd picked, across the dark industrial park to where Tom had parked his truck out of sight. Only when we were driving away, the warehouse disappearing behind us, did I finally exhale. I almost did it, I said quietly. I know. I wanted to. I know that too. So why didn't I? Because you're better than that, even when you don't feel like it. We drove in silence for a while. Then I asked the question that had been bothering me. If I had done it, if you'd caught me after instead of before, what would you have done? Tom was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I don't know. Probably tried to help you cover it up because you're my friend, then hated myself for it. I'm sorry I put you in that position. Don't be sorry. Be better. We got back to my apartment and Tom made coffee while I sat on my couch, processing everything. I need help, I finally admitted. Professional help, therapy, something, because I can't keep spiraling like this. That's a good idea. I have a therapist, I see. I can give you her information. You're in therapy? Since the divorce. It helps. I thought about that. About Tom, my stable, reliable friend, needing professional support to get through his own betrayal. If he could do it, so could I. Thank you, for tonight, for stopping me from ruining my life. That's what friends do. They stop you from being your worst self. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized how much I'd taken his friendship for granted, how much he'd sacrificed to keep me from destroying myself. I'll make an appointment tomorrow, I said. I promise. Good, because I meant what I said before. I can't watch you destroy yourself, but I also can't abandon you. So let's make sure you don't need to be watched, okay? Okay. We sat there drinking coffee until the sun came up, two friends who'd been through too much together to give up now. And slowly, in the growing light of morning, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could actually get through this without becoming someone I didn't recognize. It would take work, it would take time, it would take admitting I needed help instead of pretending I could handle everything alone. But for the first time since Laura's betrayal, I felt like there might be a path forward that didn't lead through revenge and self-destruction. A path that led somewhere better. I just had to choose to take it. I didn't go to therapy. Tom had given me the number. I'd promised to call. But when I held my phone, ready to dial, something stopped me. I didn't need someone to tell me my feelings were valid. I didn't need someone to help me process grief, or anger, or betrayal. I needed action. Real, tangible consequences for the people who'd destroyed my life and walked away laughing. So instead of calling the therapist, I called someone else. Dan? Tom answered on the third ring. Everything okay? I need your help with something. Silence. Then, what kind of something? The warehouse. I need to go back. No, absolutely not. We talked about this. I know what we talked about, but I can't let it go. They're both going back to work next week like nothing happened. Evan's suspension is ending. Laura's back from vacation. Everything just continues. And you want to stop it. I want them to face something real, something that matters, by committing a felony, by making sure justice actually happens. Tom was quiet for a long moment. You're asking me to help you? Yes. You know I'll lose my job if we get caught. Probably go to prison. I know. And you're asking anyway. Because you're the only person I trust. The only person who understands why this matters. Another long pause. Then, when? Saturday night. Late, after midnight. What's the plan? I told him. Not all of it. Some details I kept to myself. But enough that he understood what we'd be doing. Enough that he could make an informed choice. When I finished, Tom said quietly, This is crazy. I know. We could go to prison for years. I know that too. But you're doing it anyway. Yes. Then I guess I am too, because someone needs to make sure you don't get yourself terminated. We hung up. I sat there in my apartment, phone in hand, realizing what I'd just done. I'd pulled my best friend into something criminal, something dangerous, something that could ruin both our lives. But I couldn't stop now. Saturday came slowly. I went through the motions at work, smiled at appropriate times, responded to emails, attended meetings, normal life continuing while I planned something completely abnormal. Tom picked me up at 11 p.m. in his truck. We drove in silence to the industrial park, both of us wearing dark clothes, both carrying tools we'd need. The warehouse looked the same as before, dark, quiet, minimal security. We parked 3 blocks away and walked, staying in shadows, avoiding streetlights. "Last chance to turn back," Tom whispered as we approached the fence. "I'm not turning back." "Figured you'd say that." We cut through the fence, same spot as before, and slipped inside. The building's back door took less time to pick this time. Practice. Inside, the warehouse was exactly as I remembered. Rows of shelving, humming servers, red emergency lights casting everything in an eerie glow. We moved to the electrical system first. I'd studied building schematics from public permits, knew exactly where the main distribution panel was located. "What are you doing?" Tom asked as I opened the panel. "Creating a surge, something that'll look accidental but cause maximum damage to their server infrastructure." "That'll just be expensive, won't shut them down." "Not by itself, but combined with everything else." I worked carefully, rewiring connections, creating conditions that would cause a cascade failure. When someone eventually turned the system back on, it would fry every connected device. Next, the fire suppression system. I didn't disable it, that would be too obvious, but I adjusted the sensitivity, made it more likely to trigger accidentally. Added some chemical residue I'd bought from a cleaning supply store that would make any investigation conclude the system had malfunctioned naturally. "This is taking too long," Tom said, checking his watch. "Security patrol comes through in 40 minutes. Almost done. The final piece was the physical records. Rows and rows of client files, contracts, case documentation, irreplaceable paper records that Thornton and Associates had never fully digitized because they were old-fashioned that way. I didn't set them on fire. That would be too obvious, too violent, too traceable. Instead, I opened every fire exit door on the south side of the building, the side that faced the marshland, created a pathway for moisture, insects, environmental damage. By the time anyone noticed, months of humidity would have destroyed thousands of documents. "We need to go," Tom said urgently. "Now." We moved back through the warehouse, careful not to disturb anything else, back out the door we'd entered through. And that's when we heard it. A car engine. Headlights sweeping across the fence line. Security patrol, 20 minutes early. "Run!" Tom hissed. We sprinted across the open ground toward the fence, no longer caring about stealth, just speed. Behind us, I heard a car door open, someone shouting. We hit the fence, squeezed through the gap we'd cut, and kept running. 3 blocks to the truck felt like 3 miles. My lungs burned, my heart hammered. Tom's truck came into view. We threw ourselves inside. He started the engine and pulled away smoothly, not too fast, not attracting attention. In the rearview mirror, I saw the security car's lights still at the warehouse, not pursuing. We'd made it. "Did they see us?" Tom asked, hands tight on the steering wheel. "I don't think so. Too dark, too far away." "But they know someone was there." "Yeah, they know." We drove in silence, both processing what we'd just done, the line we'd just crossed. "When will the damage start showing?" Tom asked. "The electrical surge will happen as soon as someone turns the system on Monday morning. The documents will take weeks. The fire suppression system, who knows? Could be tomorrow, could be months. And they'll investigate. Of course, but there's nothing to find. We didn't leave fingerprints, didn't take anything, just rearranged some things." Tom pulled into a 24-hour diner parking lot and shut off the engine. We sat there in the darkness, reality settling over us. "We just committed multiple felonies," he said quietly. "Yes. We could go to prison, if they catch us, but they won't. You can't know that." "I can be reasonably certain. We were careful, smart. We didn't do anything flashy or stupid." Tom looked at me. "Was it worth it?" I thought about that. About Laura and Evan going back to their comfortable lives. About the affair that had destroyed my marriage being nothing more than an inconvenience for them. Ask me again in a week. We got coffee at the diner and sat in a corner booth until 3 a.m., making sure no one was looking for us, making sure we hadn't been followed. Finally, Tom drove me back to my apartment. "Get some sleep," he said as I got out. "And Dan, no matter what happens, we never talk about this again. Not on the phone, not in person. It never happened." "It never happened," I agreed. I went inside and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for morning, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life, or if I'd finally gotten the justice I deserved. Monday morning, I went to work like normal. Checked emails, attended meetings, smiled at coworkers. The perfect image of someone who hadn't committed industrial sabotage 48 hours earlier. My phone rang at 10:30 a.m. Unknown number. I answered. Hello? Mr. Cross, this is Detective Morrison with the City Police. I'd like to ask you a few questions about Thornton and Associates. My stomach dropped. What about them? There was an incident at their warehouse over the weekend. We're talking to anyone with connections to the firm. Do you have time to meet today? I forced my voice to stay calm. I'm not connected to the firm. My ex-wife works there, but we're divorced. Yes, we know. That's actually why we'd like to talk. Can you come to the station around 2 p.m.? I couldn't refuse without looking suspicious. Sure, I'll be there. I hung up and immediately texted Tom. Police called, meeting at 2 p.m. His response came quickly. Say nothing. Answer only what they ask. Don't volunteer information. At 2 p.m., I walked into the police station, trying to look confused and cooperative rather than terrified. Detective Morrison was in his 50s, balding, with tired eyes that had seen too many liars. He led me to an interview room and gestured to a chair. Thank you for coming in, Mr. Cross. This is just routine. We're talking to everyone associated with the Thornton firm. What happened? There was a break-in Saturday night. Someone accessed their warehouse, tampered with equipment. We're trying to establish who might have had motive. And you think I have motive because of my divorce? Do you? I met his eyes steadily. My divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago. I've moved on. I have no reason to sabotage my ex-wife's employer. Where were you Saturday night? Home, alone. Watched television, went to bed around 11. Anyone who can verify that? No, I live alone. Morrison made a note. Did you know about the warehouse? Its location, security systems? My ex-wife mentioned it a few times, complained about security being outdated, but I never went there, never had a reason to. But you knew it existed. Sure, the same way I know lots of things my ex-wife talked about. Doesn't mean I acted on any of them. Morrison studied me for a long moment. The security company reported seeing 2 figures fleeing the scene. Both male, both approximately your height and build. Sounds like you should be looking for those 2 people then. We are. We're checking security cameras from nearby businesses, looking for vehicles that don't belong. My heart rate accelerated, but I kept my expression neutral. Good luck with that. Where do you work, Mr. Cross? Mason Logistics. I'm an operations manager. That's interesting. You'd have knowledge of warehouse operations, security systems, that sort of thing. So do thousands of other people in this city. True. Morrison leaned back. Let me be direct. We know you have motive. You have expertise. And you don't have an alibi. That puts you on our list of people to watch. Am I being charged with something? Not yet. This is just a conversation. Then I think we're done here, unless you have actual evidence connecting me to this break-in? Morrison smiled thinly. Not yet, but we're looking. If we find anything, a fingerprint, a witness, security footage, we'll be back. You won't find anything, because I wasn't there. I stood up. Morrison remained seated. Mr. Cross, one more thing. If you did do this, if you're responsible for the damage at that warehouse, it would be better to come forward now. Show remorse. Work with us. That goes a long way with prosecutors. I appreciate the advice, Detective, but I have nothing to confess. I walked out of the station, forcing myself to move normally, not too fast, not looking back. Once I was in my car, I allowed myself to breathe. They suspected me, but suspicion wasn't evidence. As long as Tom and I stayed quiet, as long as we hadn't left anything traceable, we'd be fine, I hoped. Over the next week, news about Thornton and Associates started leaking out. Their server infrastructure had suffered catastrophic failure Monday morning, client data corrupted, backup systems fried, weeks of work lost, physical documents had been compromised by environmental exposure, thousands of files damaged beyond recovery. The firm was hemorrhaging money trying to fix the problems, clients were threatening lawsuits, partners were panicking, and Laura was at the center of it. As managing partner, she was responsible for oversight of firm operations, which meant she was responsible for the warehouse, which meant she was taking the blame for the catastrophic security failure that had allowed someone to breach their systems. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she was working 18-hour days trying to salvage the situation, that the other partners were furious with her, that her position was in jeopardy. Evan Hale had been fired outright. The ethics review, combined with the operational disaster, made him an easy scapegoat. He was gone before he could even return from suspension. The firm was collapsing. Not immediately, not dramatically, but steadily. Like a building with compromised foundation, still standing, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. I watched it happen from a distance, reading news articles, hearing gossip, tracking the slow-motion destruction of the place where my ex-wife had built her career. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just emptiness. Tom and I didn't talk about what we'd done. We went back to normal life. Dinners, drinks, casual conversation. The warehouse break-in became something that had happened, past tense, done. 2 weeks after my interview with Detective Morrison, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello? Daniel, it's Evan. I almost hung up. Then curiosity won again. What do you want? To thank you. For what? For destroying my life so completely that I had no choice but to rebuild it honestly. I said nothing, waiting. I lost everything, Evan continued. My job, my reputation, my family, all of it. And you know what? I deserved it. What I did to Megan, to my kids, to you, I deserved every consequence. If you're looking for forgiveness, I'm not. I'm just saying I understand now. What I cost people, what I threw away, and I'm trying to do better. Be better. Good for you. I know you did it, by the way. The warehouse. I can't prove it, but I know. My blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. It's fine. I'm not going to tell anyone. Consider it my apology for everything I took from you. He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, processing that conversation. Evan knew, but he wasn't going to talk, which meant we were safe. Probably. 3 weeks after the warehouse incident, I came home from work to find Evan Hale sitting on the steps outside my apartment building. We need to talk, he said, standing up. I have nothing to say to you. Please, 5 minutes, then I'll leave and never bother you again. Against my better judgment, I nodded. 5 minutes. We walked to a coffee shop on the corner, ordered drinks we didn't want, and sat across from each other at a small table. Laura's being forced out, Evan said without preamble. The partners voted. She's done. That's not my problem. She thinks you did it. The warehouse. She knows your expertise, knows you had motive. She's been telling people you're responsible. Does she have proof? No, just suspicion. But she's making noise about going to the police again, pushing them to investigate you harder. Let her. There's nothing to find. Maybe, maybe not. But I'm here to ask you to stop. I leaned back, studying him. Stop what? Whatever else you're planning, because I know you, Daniel. I've seen how you operate. You're not done. You're going to keep pushing until we're both completely destroyed. Why would I do that? You've already lost everything. Because you're angry. Because we hurt you. Because you want us to suffer. He wasn't wrong. So what are you asking? I'm asking you to let it end here. You've won. We've both lost our careers, our reputations, our futures at Thornton. Isn't that enough? I thought about that. About Laura being forced out, Evan already fired, the firm itself teetering on the edge of collapse. Was it enough? I'll make you a deal, I said slowly. You and Laura both signed statements admitting the affair, admitting you're responsible for the ethical violations that contributed to the firm's problems. You take full responsibility publicly, and I'll stop. That'll make things worse for us. That's the point. Evan stared at me for a long moment. You really hate us that much? No. I just want you to face actual consequences. Own what you did. Stop hiding behind corporate double talk and PR damage control. And if we do this, then we're done. You never hear from me again. Evan was quiet, thinking. Finally, he nodded. I'll talk to Laura, see if she'll agree. You have 48 hours. After that, the deal expires. We stood up. Evan extended his hand. I looked at it for a moment, then shook it. I really am sorry, he said quietly. For everything. I don't care if you're sorry. I care that you face consequences. He nodded and left. I sat there alone with my untouched coffee, wondering if I'd just made a mistake or the smartest move of this entire situation. 2 days later, I received an email. Attached were signed statements from both Laura and Evan, admitting to their affair, acknowledging the ethical violations, taking responsibility for the damage to the firm. The statements were notarized, official, permanent. I forwarded them to Megan Hale with a simple message. Thought you might want these for your custody case. Her response came an hour later. Thank you. This helps more than you know. Then I forwarded them to the Bar Association's Ethics Committee. And finally, I saved copies to multiple secure locations, insurance against either of them trying to rewrite history later. It was done. Laura and Evan had admitted their guilt publicly. Their careers were finished. The firm would likely collapse within months. I'd gotten everything I wanted. So why did I still feel empty? That evening, Tom came over with pizza and beer. "You did it," he said, reading the statements I'd received. "They actually admitted everything." "Yeah." "So why do you look miserable?" "Because revenge doesn't fix anything. It just creates more damage." Tom was quiet for a moment. "You're finally figuring that out?" "I guess I am." "So what now?" "Now I try to move forward. Actually heal instead of just causing more pain." "Think you can do that?" I looked around my apartment, the space I'd built for myself, the life I was trying to create from the wreckage of my marriage. It wasn't much yet, but it was mine. "I think so, with time." "Good, because I'm tired of bailing you out of revenge schemes." I laughed, surprising myself. "Deal, no more revenge schemes." "Promise?" "Promise." We ate pizza and watched television and existed in the comfortable silence of friendship that had survived everything I'd put it through. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I hope you're satisfied. You destroyed everything I built, everything I was. I hope it was worth it. Laura." I read it twice, then deleted it without responding. She wanted me to engage, wanted me to feel guilty or justified or something, but I felt nothing. Just tired. So very tired. I set down my phone and looked at Tom. "Thank you. For everything. For not giving up on me even when I was being an idiot." "That's what friends do." "No. Most friends would have walked away. You stayed." "You'd have done the same for me." He was right. I would have. That's what real loyalty looked like. Not revenge, not punishment, just being there, even when it was hard. 3 months later, I was sitting in my apartment when I saw the news. Thornton and Associates was filing for bankruptcy. The firm that had dominated the corporate law scene for 40 years was closing its doors permanently. Hundreds of jobs lost. Dozens of partners scrambling to find new positions. Years of institutional knowledge scattered to the wind. And I'd played a role in that. Not the only role. The firm had plenty of problems before I'd touched their warehouse, but I'd accelerated the collapse. I should have felt something. Pride, guilt, satisfaction, something. Instead, I just felt old. Older than my years. Worn down by anger and revenge and the discovery that destroying others doesn't rebuild yourself. My phone rang. "Megan Hale." "Did you see the news?" she asked. "Yeah." "I wanted to call and say thank you for giving me those statements, for helping me protect my kids. The custody case went exactly how I needed it to because of what you provided." "You're welcome. How are the kids?" "Better. Therapy helps. They're starting to understand that their father's mistakes don't define them." "That's good. That's really good." "What about you? Are you okay?" Was I? That was the question I'd been asking myself for months. "I'm working on it," I said honestly. "That's all any of us can do. Work on it, day by day." We talked for a few more minutes. Two people bound together by shared trauma, both trying to find our way to something better. When we hung up, I sat in the silence of my apartment and thought about who I'd become over the past months. A man who'd been betrayed, a man who'd sought revenge, a man who'd crossed lines he never thought he'd cross, but also a man who'd survived, who'd rebuilt, who'd learned, slowly, painfully, that revenge doesn't heal wounds, it just creates new ones. I picked up my phone and finally called the therapist Tom had recommended months ago. "I'd like to make an appointment," I told the receptionist. "Of course. What brings you in?" "I need help letting go of anger and learning how to move forward." "We can definitely help with that." I scheduled an appointment for the following week. Then I stood up, walked to my window, and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Laura was dealing with the collapse of her career. Evan was trying to rebuild a relationship with his kids. The employees of Thornton and Associates were scrambling to find new jobs. And I was here, in my small apartment, finally ready to start actually healing instead of just hurting back. It had taken months. It had required Tom stopping me from destroying myself. It had cost me pieces of my soul I'd never get back. But I was here, still standing, still trying. That had to count for something. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Then I turned away from the window and started planning dinner. Normal things, routine things, the small daily acts that slowly build a life worth living. The revenge was over. Now the real work began.